Hey everyone, and welcome to the NintendoFuse Podcast. This is episode 283, recorded on December 18th, 2023. This is our Game of the Year awards show, and we're going to be getting into all of that and a lot of news updates in just a bit. My name is Steve, and of course, I'm joined by Barry and Greg. Barry, how you doing?
I'm great. Looking forward to this all year long. So excited
Yeah.
for this one.
Greg, you excited too?
Yeah, this is always one of the it's like the episode of the year kind of thing.
Yeah. Should be awesome. 283 episodes. Here we are finishing up the end of 2023. We are going to be taking a break after this, as we typically do, and we're going to be back at the end of January, so about a month break. So if you've never joined us live, if you're not joining us live right now, we would love to have you when we jump back into our podcast when we come back at the end of January 2024. In the meantime, you can follow us over on social media. You can find us at NintendoFuse. And then also we are in our Discord channel and Discord server. And you can find all those links in the show notes, but also in the YouTube description and the link on the screen if you're watching the video version. So speaking of that video version, like I said, we do record this live, and you can join us on YouTube and Twitch. We stream live, and we have the video version on demand on our YouTube channel after the fact. So Game of the Year episode. If you've never joined us for this episode before, it's just an awesome time for us to get together and reflect on the past year of gaming. We're going to be talking about December of last year, so December 2022 all the way through November of 2023. So that just because, we're not finished with December yet, and we don't want to discount any of those games. So December 2023 will be included in our Games of the Year for 2024. But also for this episode, we're going to be shaking it up a little bit and changing up our order. And so we're going to jump into headlines at the very beginning and make sure there's been a few updates and some different things going on in the world of video games. We want to make sure that you guys know all about that stuff. So kick us off, Greg. Let us know about what's been going on in the headlines world.
All right, top off the batch. Unfortunately, probably to most people's surprise, E3 is now officially dead. I know we've had a number of topics over the course of this year doing how with like Nintendo and Sony and Microsoft had kind of dropped out this particular year, but now on E3's official social media, they have officially confirmed that it's the end of the era. So Electronic Entertainment Expo had released like a tweet saying after more than 2 decades of doing E3 and each one being bigger than the last, it's time to say goodbye. So farewell E3.
Yes, and speaking of things that are not dead, Jeff Keighley is going on again with the Game Awards. We talked about it last time, and they did in fact happen. And Game of the Year did go to Baldur's Gate 3, beating out both Tears of the Kingdom and Mario Wonder, but Nintendo didn't walk away empty-handed. Zelda Tears of the Kingdom did receive Best Action Adventure, while Sea of Stars beat out for Best Independent Game. Mario Wonder wound up winning Best Family Game, and Pikmin 4 got Best Sim Strategy Game, and Cocoon, which is a brand new IP from Annapurna, won Best Debut Indie Game. So Nintendo and games that are represented on the system did wind up winning, just not the big one, unfortunately.
And for those of you that are excited about Nintendo theme parks, a new Pokemon theme park is launching in Japan, and it's going to be the PokéPark Kanto, with an amusement park in Inago, Tokyo. And I believe it's going to be launching. I don't know if they actually have given a date when it's actually opening or anything like that, but an entire amusement park dedicated to Pokemon. So not only do we have Super Nintendo World now, we also have PokéPark.
Kind of along the lines of Super Nintendo World, the Mario Brothers movie, which obviously had some sort of influence like with the park because of going down the Disney route kind of thing is where I was going with that, was apparently the most streamed movie of 2023. So even though it was one of the highest grossing movies of the well, I guess it is the highest grossing movie of the year, and it's one of the highest of all time. The rewards are certain hasn't stopped there, where it's now the number one streaming for the year as well. And it was also nominated for 3 Golden Globes today, so hopefully they can take those home as well.
And more good news for the Switch. Um, Possibly bad news for those that are looking forward to the Switch 2 is the Switch is officially the third best selling console in US history. It has been the third best overall for a little bit now, but has now taken over the third spot in just the US. Of course, it is behind the PS2 and the DS, which also lead overall. But the gap is closing in, so congratulations to the Switch, and that doesn't count this fully this holiday. So we'll see what happens after this.
Cool, cool. Lots of cool updates. Unfortunately, with E3 is dead, which we kind of saw the writing on the wall, but lots of other pretty good updates so far. Greg, what do you think about these stories before we jump into the rest of our episode?
I mean, it was as I was kind of alluding to, like we had already kind of discussed E3 and like how it was like pseudo dead, as like they didn't really have much of a show this year, but um, it kind of sad to see it go away permanently. I was just saying in the chat, I wish I could have had a chance to go on a second time, but obviously that's not going to be no longer the case. But uh, I guess everything is kind of better digitally because it can really reach everybody as opposed to just being like media and then having to relay finding information and all that. So it's completely understandable and seeing how that's where that went, how that came about. Anyways, in terms of the Game Award winners, everything was kind of surprised that Tears of the Kingdom got snubbed on Game of the Year, but I don't know. That's probably just my bias. um, the PokéPark thing does sound kind of interesting if they're going to be expanding that into the theme park. I still got to make my way over to Japan to go over there to check out the original part of it, but hopefully they'll be completed when I do make it out there. Great news about the Mario movie. I mean, I really had liked the movie and all the little Easter eggs and tidbits of throwbacks to the game. So glad to see that it's even staying strong through the streaming holiday for the rest of the year. And then, yeah, the Switch being the number 3 official in the U.S. is awesome news as well. I mean, we still have the strong holiday season ahead, and obviously it's probably going to be on the decline as the Switch 2 is pretty inevitable next year.
Yeah. Going in the chat real quick, it looks like we've got several people in there chatting about what's been going on. But looks like Jakester said he's glad that E3 is dead. Honestly, it needed to happen so that the ESA can get a reality check. Blake says he's going to be missing E3 as they always look forward to the games announced. But they do need a wake-up call, which does make sense. Kind of good news, bad news, I think, in that front. Barry, what'd you think of these stories?
Yeah, I'm sad that E3 died. I always loved E3, and I, even though 2021 wasn't the greatest E3, I wouldn't hate an all digital E3 to at least have some announcements, because I mean we do have Nintendo Directs and State of Plays and Indie Worlds and stuff like that sprinkled throughout the year. But it was always that exciting time when everyone came together, and I feel we don't really have that. And we have Summer Game Fest, but it doesn't feel like it has the same magic as E3. The Summer Game Fest, like the Game Awards and Summer Game Fest are very similar because they're both Jeff Keighley, but they feel very samey. Like there's something magical, I think, about E3, and I hope somehow it comes back. As for the Game Awards, I knew if there was going to be one game to take out Tears of the Kingdom, it was going to be Baldur's Gate 3. So it was fairly obvious that was going to happen because it hit more gamers, just because it's on more platforms. But no, I thought the show was really weird. I really think Jeff just needs to have Winter Game Fest and Game Awards and have them be two separate things, and have the Game Awards be for the Game Awards and the Winter Game Fest be for the world premieres, because they were really rushing people off stage. It was really odd. As for PokéPark, great. More amusement parks are great. Bring them to America. That's all I have to say. Bring them over here. We love Pokemon too. For the Mario movie, that's fantastic. Obviously Zelda movie was announced. Keep it up. Keep it up, Nintendo. We're hungry for it. And Switch officially the third best selling in the US. That doesn't surprise me. I think the Switch has the potential, real potential, to overtake the PS2 and the DS. Because if it overtakes the DS, it's gonna overtake the PS2. Like, they're so close. So it depends on 2024. It depends on if Switch 2 comes out, which we all suspect. It depends when in 2024 it comes out, and it depends on how they market the Switch afterwards. If they continue to support it, if they continue to do new models, if they continue to produce it, and they just don't kill it outright. I think the Switch will soar past the PS2 and the DS.
Yeah, I'm with you guys as well. And yeah, sad E3. I'm glad, I had a chance to go and be in person, but it's not been the same for the last several years. But I do hope that something will replace it in that way, because I think it is something we could miss. Or maybe there's something else that's going to pop up that is not Summer Game Fest, that's completely different, that brings back the same excitement, but something new and fresh. And I'm all for that sort of thing as well. The Game Awards, I'm with you, you guys as well. Man, it was some awards and a whole lot of trailers, and it was, sometimes you do need to have a limited time for people to say their acceptance speeches, because there are people that in the past that have gone on and on and on and on and on and on, but I feel like they only got about 15 seconds before they're rushed off the stage. Like, you can't do anything in 15 seconds. You're like, you've thanked your family, and that's about it. That's all the time you got for in 15 seconds. So it would be nice to lengthen that a little bit and give people the time to honor the people that helped them get to that place and everything. But it was fun. And like you guys said, like, Baldur's Gate's pretty much the only game that could have overthrown Tears of the Kingdom. But glad to see it got some other awards as well, and several other awards for Nintendo. It was great to see Nintendo represented quite a bit in the show, which is awesome, because we've had other shows in the past where you're like, well, there wasn't a Mario or a Zelda game that came out this year, so we got nothing. But that was definitely not the case this year. And yeah, I'm with you guys. I think it'd be great to just take a NintendoFuse trip out to PokéPark. I think that's on the docket. It's got to be. So
you mentioned no Mario or Zelda game. Remember, even in between 2017 and now, Xenoblade Chronicles 3 got nominated, Metroid Dread got nominated, so other Nintendo titles are starting to get recognition. Pikmin 4, that was the first time Pikmin's ever been nominated for something and won. Mm-hmm. So it's good to see Nintendo IP getting some recognition.
Yep.
I was going to say, there's been years where a new Mario and Zelda game have come out, and then they're not even nominated at all. So I feel like I remember instances like that before, like the Switch, like on Wii U. So.
Oh.
Well, those are like ports. Like the Twilight Princess HD wasn't going to get nominated because it was a port. Skyward Sword HD didn't get nominated. But
Jesse's in the chat and wants an e-reader. I have an e-reader, a broken one. Doesn't work anymore. Great. It's kind of a pain in the butt, but there's one other news story that we want to hit before we jump into our game of the year. And Greg, you were telling me just a little update. I didn't catch any of this before we started recording, but Greg was giving me a little update, and Barry filling me in on a story that we talked a lot about on the last episode about Gerard and the Completionist and that whole debacle that's been going on. So give us a little updates. Greg, tell us a little updates. I know, Barry, you know a lot too, but fill me in and fill the rest of our audience in.
Yeah, so I believe since last time, Gerard had issued an actual statement on and pretty much was trying to say it was his response to the entire matter, and was supposed to be also an apology, but it really turned into a half apology type situation. So both Mudahar and from Some Ordinary Gamer and Carl Jobs also made subsequent videos and even responded to his response, and then they revealed even more details and stuff from the call, and from there now they're releasing the entire Discord call that they used in their initial videos. So now they're going to do the full call unedited, and there's even like a mention of like Gerard potentially trying to like bribe them off. So like he was trying to say like, well, how do you think I should handle it? Like, you guys need money and like other stuff like that or something, where it was kind of like slightly trying to test the waters kind of thing, not like flat out like making it obvious, but it was just very interesting how all that kind of went down. So I think they just started releasing the actual like the first part of the call. Mudahar just uploaded like an hour or two before this podcast. So yeah, there's still more developing, but not really in any good way for Gerard. He kind of also threatened litigation against both of them for thinking that he was getting defamed from all the negative publicity, but it's kind of them just kind of doubling down and also trying to say like, well, you're like lying, and this is unfortunately is the ground for charity fraud. So
Hmm.
it's kind of an interesting developments that have been ongoing, and not sure how much longer it'll go, or if Gerard will issue a secondary statement. But in his first one, he did note that it was going to be his only statement, so there's not really one expected. So I don't know if he'll change his mind on that. But yeah, it's not really looking good for him right now.
Yeah, it's looking bad, and it's looking bad for a lot of people who immediately jumped to his defense. A lot of people were just like, "Oh yeah, that apology was fantastic. That's great. I side with you, blah blah blah." And we see this before. We've seen, you know, famous people or friends come to defense, and more recently this year, I think it was Danny Masterson from that '70s show. Like Ashton Kutcher and Mila Kunis jumped to his defense, and then of course he was found guilty and put to jail, and it was like, oh, now you spoke for his character, and that doesn't look good on you. So a lot of YouTubers are like, gaming YouTubers are like, oh yeah, we vouch for him, and oh yeah, he wouldn't do that, and no, we accept your apology, and these people just want drama. And now as more come out, like that's not looking good for them either, because you're sticking up for somebody who all evidence is pointing to some serious allegations. And, he said he's not going to do another statement. I don't think he's going to. I think he's just going to try to slink away and hope people forget. Like, I hope something new comes about for people's outrage to go to. I do not think he's going to upload a new video. I think his YouTube is dead. I think that's the end of it. But he had a lot of connections, which is what's scary. I mean, he G4 when they came back, of course, he was part of that, but like he did stuff with Nintendo. Like there was the Hyrule Warriors Definitive Edition that he rode to Nintendo, Washington and away, and had to wear the Tingle costume, and was with Bill Trinan, and like they sponsored that video. He's doing game publishing now. So there are digital publisher or digital developers that are signed with his digital publishing company. And now that looks really bad. What's going to happen to those developers? Like there's a lot of we don't know what's going to happen in the future, but this every day this gets uglier and uglier. And that audio, I mean, he's like, guys, I got 20 mouths to feed, like please don't do this to me. And it's like you did it to yourself. I'm sorry. Like you were caught red-handed, and you can't talk your way out of it. You should just own it, explain the situation, and move on. But you don't. You fought back. You opened your mouth and you threatened the very people that exposed you, which of course now they're going to get defensive. And ugliness, this whole thing, it sucks. I feel for everybody involved. I feel for the people who are unfortunately roped in by association. um, but I guess we'll see what happens. But yeah, it's not looking good.
Yep. Yep. And as you can see, yeah, Sea of Stars has even removed him from the game as well. So
Yep.
people are taking action, and yeah, it's not looking good, as we talked about last time. Even if somehow everything it comes out and he's innocent, and they're just being negligent and taking their time and all this stuff with everything, it's going to be next to impossible to bounce back from something like this.
I do want to just quickly state that the organization did donate $600,000 to one of the Alzheimer's or one of the dementia charities, they did actually donate 600. They had 655,000, but they only donated 600,000 of it, as far as I'm aware. But they did do that. But they did that after this was all brought to the attention. If this didn't happen, would they have donated it? And most likely not. So at least it was donated. There was some money donated. But you know what? That's after 10 years. There were a lot of people in that 10 years that died with dementia that they could have been helped. My grandmother died 5 years ago with dementia. She could have been helped during that, for all I know. That the first 5 years worth of donations could have helped, and it's frustrating because all those people that donated from the kindness of their heart. They're like, oh yeah, I'm doing something good, and they just took advantage of the goodwill.
Yeah. Well, everybody is agreeing in the chat. It's really, really sad, really unfortunate, and hopefully we we see some good stuff from this. But I don't really know how it's gonna work out at this point. I'm glad that the donations are finally getting where they need to go, and hopefully the rest of it will as well. But it's really unfortunate for him and all his organization and everything that's got a really, really dark, black mark against them now. And it's going to be next to impossible to recover from that. So it's too bad. But let's move into something that's a little more exciting and a little more uplifting. It is time for our Game of the Year awards, a time that we have been waiting for all year long, and so excited to talk about these games that we've really, really enjoyed, and some that we haven't really enjoyed as well. So quick explanation over what we're going to be doing. We're going to be hitting all these different categories. We're going to be talking about the best indie Switch game. We're going to be talking about the best third-party Switch game. We're going to cover the best Nintendo developed or published Switch game. Then we're going to head over to the non-Nintendo systems, and we're going to talk about the best games on a non-Nintendo system. Then we're going to cover our worst games of the year, and then finally end up with our overall game of the year. We've tallied everything up, and we've come up with our game of the year. And then we'll also talk about some different experiences that we've had over this past year that maybe didn't happen in 2023, but the games didn't come out in 2023, but we've had some good experiences with those games as well. So we'll talk about those. So lots of games to talk about. Fair warning, this episode tends to go longer because we talk about so much of these games. And so we would just, bear with us. Maybe you consume it in 2 or 3 parts if you want to. But we also do want to encourage you to tell us what your favorite games of the year have been as well. Put those in the live chat if you've not done so on social media or on a Discord server already. Please let us know in the live chat, and we will interact with you guys, what you've told us already and what you're telling us in the live chat throughout the episode. We love hearing what you guys think is the best games of the year as well. So that's kind of just an overall plan of action for this episode. And how we're going to do that is we're going to go third, second, first each time. We have 3 different picks for each of those categories. So a full round of 3 around the horn, about a round of the second place around the horn, and then hit our first place. Before we hit our first place, if you have any honorable mentions, feel free to throw those in there before we hit our first place award. But that's kind of how we'll do it, and we'll keep the order pretty steady tonight because sometimes it's hard to know, okay, which one. Okay, Steve went first this time, and then Barry, and then Greg. So we're just going to keep it Greg, Barry, Steve all night long. So that way it's easy to understand and keep track. And we're going to jump in the first category of the best indie games. So lots of indie games that have been heading to the Switch pretty much ever since it came out, but especially this year. There were tons of indie games. And so kicking us off with the third place, Greg, what's your third place indie game?
All right, so this was actually a game that came out in the last month or so. So it's Ira and the Crow Maiden. So I had, even though it launched with a pretty bad bug where it was kind of jolty and stuff that I mentioned when I had played it a month ago, it was kind of jaw-dropping that it was that kind of bug came out when the game did. But once it got fixed, it made it completely playable and very fun, enjoyable to play. So you go on this like little quest, and then it's kind of similar to playing like a old school retro Castlevania style game, and you just kind of like go through and just kind of attack enemies with like your weapons and like with the little bird that follows you, and you just try to find like little survivors and stuff, and it's a lot of classic retro fun. So I had unfortunately not a ton of time with it, but it was definitely very enjoyable for what I did play. So that's why I put it at number 3.
All right, Barry.
So yeah, for my number 3 was also a game that just came out last month that kind of snuck out there. It was a Kickstarter, and I got my code to play, and that is The Last Faith. This is a game I actually forgot about Kickstartering because it was a while ago, like many others, and this is a Souls-like 2D Gothic Metroidvania, which with a lot of like Castlevania vibes, and it is really interesting. There's a ton of different weapons you could use. You could just like Souls, you can write books, and when you write the books, you could upgrade your levels, and it makes the enemies respawn. And if you die, you lose your souls, so to speak, and you got to reclaim them. Bosses are very challenging and require strategy. Some of the enemies get really tough too, but the environments are beautiful. They're varied. This is really cool story going on with what's going on in the scenario and why everyone's the way they are. You're cursed, and you got to figure out the mysteries. And I really don't want to spoil it because it is really cool. It took me by surprise. I wasn't sure if the difficulty was going to get me, but I persevered and just had a lot of fun. So I definitely recommend this if you enjoy Metroidvanias, and especially if you enjoy a little bit of a challenge.
Nice. Well, for my third place is a game that I was not expecting to enjoy that much, and that is Shadows Over Loathing, a game that I skipped out on the first game, West of Loathing, but jumped into Shadows Over Loathing and just fell in love with the humor, how the game works, and it's just it drew me in so much. I haven't went back to play West of Loathing yet, but at some point I will, because this game not only drew me in that much to get me to play this one, and I couldn't get enough of it, but it has inspired me to go back and play West of Loathing. So yeah, if you haven't checked out Shadows of Loathing yet, definitely want to do that. It's just this narrative story that's so fun, but like I said, the humor is also really great in there as well. So let's move on to second place with Greg.
Well, I guess you're probably just going to keep the clip playing because my second place is Shadows Over Loathing. So, yeah, I did play West of Loathing first time around. I really enjoyed that one, and pretty much this is just a more of the same type situation. So, essentially everything that Steve said, but I liked it probably a little bit more than he did, so I put it at number 2. So it's a very funny story. It's definitely worth checking out. Like it doesn't require you to play the first one at all. Like you can just jump right into this one. But I guarantee you'll get a lot of good laugh points, and it's a very blast to play. And I think everyone should be hopefully get a chance to play it at the earliest convenience.
Yeah. How about you, Barry? Number 2.
Well, let's just keep this going because my number 2 is also Shadows Over Loathing. I loved West of Loathing. Greg and I had the chance to talk to the developers during an industry talk for NintendoFuse, and of course, when we got this is just more of the same. It's a D&D game pretty much, and it's just a lot of fun. It's quirky. It's amazing. And if this doesn't convince you that all three of us just bang like this to play this game, I don't know what will. It is great. It is just something to be experienced and a lot of fun, and you don't need to play the first game, but obviously it's great if you can play both of them. What talent, just an awesome game. So yeah, this made my number 2.
Nice. Well, what could beat out Shadows of Over Loathing? For me, it was a game that I did not expect to really enjoy that much. But then all of a sudden I started playing it, and Sea of Stars won me over. So Sea of Stars is number 2. Yeah, just love the fact of like I am really drawn into stuff like the style of RPG games. Like when I do get a chance to play them, just the style of the game, both the art style, but also how you go about it. And navigating the world is different in this one. So you're interacting and you're able to jump over the overworld a lot too. And I mean, I got sucked into things like fishing. Like I fished for like, I don't know how long. I was like, I need to continue in this game. But fishing is so much fun, and just the battles and stuff. I like the old schools kind of style of the JRPGs, but it kind of just brings a new light to it as well. So yeah, number 2 or is Sea of Stars. Hey, Greg, any honorable mentions in number 1?
Yeah, I had one honorable mention that I at least wrote down, but the second one it's pretty much the review game that we were going to be covering at a future game chat. But the other one I had written down was Doodle World. So this was like one I found like a video on randomly on TikTok of the developer posting like the trailer, and I'm like, that actually looks a lot of fun. So it's like this little quirky like hand drawn like type like platformer type thing. So it's kind of got like the stick like figures, kind of like Shadows Over Loathing, but it's just purely platforming and stuff. There's nothing like extensive like any RPG or anything like that. It's just like if Mario is just stick figures, it's about essentially what you're about to get with that. But that was also one that I had picked up over the last month to get. But all the way down to number 1 is actually Super Dungeon Maker. So like premium edition games immediately picked this one up, and obviously for very good reasons. So if you really enjoy games like the 2D Legend of Zelda games, and you really want to have your own say at making your own dungeons, and this is definitely about as close as you'll get without actually using Link. So I had a ton of fun playing around and trying to make my own dungeons. It just kind of the sad part of it is just there's way too many games to play, and you can't really dive too deep into continuously making dungeons all the time, and because there definitely is a time element involved to be working on them and crafting them to be perfect and all that kind of stuff too, and have other people be able to play them. So yeah, I really enjoyed my time with Super Dungeon Maker, and that was my best indie game of the year.
Nice. Barry, any honorable mentions? Number 1?
Yeah, I Super Dungeon Maker is an honorable mention, which if you haven't played the game, not only great, but there's a fantastically big update coming. If it's not out now, it's out like in a day or two. That adds a bunch of new content, including a brand new playable character. So, like, the game was great when it came out. It's way better now. So definitely check that out. Sunshine Manor came out, another fantastic 16-bit style horror game. Lonesome Village came out earlier this year. It's a lot of fun. It's cozy Zelda meets Animal Crossing. Chained Echoes came out. It wasn't my favorite game, but I did enjoy it enough to put it into an honorable mention for I think it came out December. And truthfully, The Last Faith wasn't on my radar because I forgot about it. It wasn't my original number 3. So my original number 3 had to get pushed into honorable mention, and that is Harmony: Fall of Reverie from Don't Nod. I had a lot of fun with that. Steve and I talked about it, and that was my original number 3. I even had the trailer loaded up for Steve and everything, and then I played The Last Faith, and I'm like, oh, I got to bump this down to an honorable mention, but it is fantastic. So that's my number 4. But in my number 1 is ironically Steve's number 2, and that's Sea of Stars. Sea of Stars, it just, again, I kickstarted it. I got the physical, which isn't out yet. I was like, all right, I'll play it when the physical comes out. And because the physical was delayed till next year, they want to make it perfect. They sent all backers a digital copy, including just the physical. So I got it for free. So I'm like, all right, well, I guess I'll play it now and give it a try. And I fell in love with this game. I wasn't sure if I would. Right to completion, I could not put it down. It was just so great. I love the story. I love the characters. Very rarely does a game get me really emotionally involved, and this did with some of the characters. I really felt it. I felt the twists and turns on the characters and the truth behind some of them. It really lends itself to it. It's just there's a lot of mystery, and I never played The Messenger. I've heard really good things, and I own it. But I'm more tempted now because it's set in similar universe or same universe. But yeah, highly, if you like old school 16-bit art JRPGs, you need to play Sea of Stars. It is phenomenal.
Yep. Even Greg's sitting in the chat. Apparently, you missed out on it.
Yeah, I didn't even know this game released. Like, I don't remember we really even talked about it, unless I wasn't on that episode.
I talked about it when I played it.
Yeah. It's also they've got a free demo available as well, so definitely want to check that out. In fact, there's a lot of demos that are out there, which allowed me to play a lot of these games. But yeah, Sea of Stars demo is a great
awesome.
one. You get a lot of experience from that one. So looking at my honorable mentions, agree with a lot of you guys. Also, I really enjoyed Dave the Diver as well. So I put that as a indie. Like, I know it's dependent on where it goes and everything. I put it in indie, but a honorable mention. I don't know if you guys have played the arcade game where you like have the spear or the thing that you like shoot into the fish and try to catch it. I don't know. It's like a top down sort of thing. It kind of just gave me that same kind of feeling, and I was like, floating around trying to harpoon all these fish and everything. It was just a really enjoyable time, but also exciting and everything as well. But funny enough, a game that Barry mentioned was Harmony: The Fall of Reverie, that made my number one. Looking back at 2023, I wanted to know how much time I spent with different games, and this is a game that I spent a ton of time with, and for good reason. It really sucked me in a whole lot more than I thought it would. I'm a big fan of Don't Nod, of course, and their Life is Strange games, but this was something that I thought would be like interesting, but I don't really know how it would go. And the next thing I know, I'm putting hours and hours and hours into this game, and yeah, totally got sucked in and really enjoyed it. Love the concept behind it. Sometimes it was confusing. It's not a perfect game, but overall had an amazing time with this game and was really drawn into the art style, the story, and the choices you can make and how it all plays together. And yeah, that's my number one indie game is Harmony: The Fall of Reverie. So,
Awesome.
yeah, so it was interesting. We had some similar choices there, Barry, just in some different orders.
Different
there.
orders, yeah, different orders. Actually,
Yeah.
Ours were almost the same.
Mhm.
If I didn't play Last Faith, it would have been the same three.
Yep.
And honestly, when I made my list, I was thinking, hey, wait, Shadows of Loathing I did with Steve, Harmony I did with Steve. I didn't expect Sea of Stars from you, but I'm like, 2 out of 3 are going to be from Steve.
Yeah. Very fun. What's the community saying?
So the community best indie game from on Discord, Dave said Melatonin was his best indie. From Jakester, he said Sea of Stars as well. And let's see. And then, of course, in the chat right now, Blake said his top 3 indies were Dredge, then Dorgon, and then Sea of Stars. So another Sea of Stars up there. Let us know your tops. But yeah, it's been a great year for indies for sure.
Cool. Greg, it seems like you have some definite homework there.
Yeah, and like I was even just put in the chat, like I think this game, like basically even just on the trailer, it probably would have made like my top 3, assuming that it plays as good as it looks. But obviously, I don't know for sure until I download it, and that's why I'll probably be downloading it after the podcast.
Yeah.
Jakester just said he played the demo for Sea of Stars and it was just great, and the trailer made me want more.
So good, and it's not you don't. You completed it, right, Barry? How long did it take you to beat it?
I want to say maybe 35 hours or so, but I did a lot.
Yeah,
almost. I was missing one thing, which there's like 50 of an item you need to collect to get the true ending, which I got like 40 something, and it was at that point where you get a parrot that can help you find what you're missing, and I had moved on, and they've updated since to make the parrot even more useful. But I just looked up the true ending at that point. But I did everything else. Yeah, like it is. Yeah. It sucked me in. And if it wasn't a collectathon, like go back and try to find these things, I would have done it. It was just like, do I really want to go do that? This year has been so busy with so many games. And obviously my life. So I highly recommend Sea of Stars. Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah, I think that's one of the reasons I ended up giving it a try, because it's not going to be an RPG that sucks you in for hundreds of hours, which I don't have. So that's why I've not played any the Xenoblade games as much, because I still got to finish X. But yeah, it's one of those that you can complete a good chunk in a short amount of time. So. Well, let's move on to the third-party category. In the past, this is the category that we have called like the third-party AAA games, but we decided to shorten it this year. Third-party Switch games. These are the games that are not from the indie developers. These are from the rest of the third-party developers, so not published or and gotten out there from Nintendo themselves. But lots of different games that have come out from third parties on Switch. We've had past years. Greg mentioned earlier times when we had the Wii U, and it feels like no third parties were publishing on the Wii U, but that is not the case anymore on the Switch. So lots of different games out there. Greg, kick us off with your third pick for best third party game on the Switch.
Yeah, so when this game was initially announced, I was actually pretty excited. So all the way down at number 3 is Disney Illusion Island. So this is like a Mickey platformer if they decided to follow the steps of like New Super Mario Brothers Wii, but essentially just using Mickey, Minnie, Goofy, and Donald in their stead. So unfortunately, it's not like all at the same time, or well, I mean, it can be at the same time, but it's not as chaotic as like those games. You don't have to like throw them off cliffs or anything like that. But it's essentially just good, simple, fun platforming adventure. It's a Metrovania, so you could explore down different pathways, and then you get new moves. So then you can go farther, and like you can obviously gain some abilities, like some swinging abilities, and along with like double jumps and all the other kind of stuff you normally expect from platforming games that also have like the Metroidvania element to it. So there's a little bit fun of a story where like you're kind of lured into this random kingdom, and then I don't know if I should probably spoil it, but essentially like you pretty much have to solve the crisis that's going on and retrieve these tomes, and then pretty much the Mickey and the gang get to go along defeating bosses and stuff. So it's actually you don't actually defeat any of the enemies. Like you have to actually they're just obstacles. Like you can't even jump on them or anything. So it's got that unique aspect like with the pacifist kind of ability in there too. So the boss fights just have you like hitting these like little switches. So then like they end up like hurting themselves. So in all, it was a very fun game. That's my number 3.
Nice. Barry, how about you?
Yeah, my this was a tough category. My God, was this a tough category. But my number 3 has to go to Master Detective Archives Rain Code. I love the Danganronpa games. I thought they were a lot of fun. So when this was announced from the same developers, I was like, ooh, I was intrigued. And then I played it, and I just fell in love with this world and the mysteries behind it. And this involves multiple cases, multiple murder cases, and you are a detective, and you've got to figure it out, what's going on, why these cases happen, and the whodunit. But it's more than that because it's an overarching story, and you are in Kanai Ward, and Kanai Ward is constantly raining. It is raining every single day. Why is it raining? Why is it? What's going on? You know, there's a corporation that's ruling the city. Why is this corporation ruling the city? What, like, there's so many mysteries on top of, and this is one of those games where you think you know the solution, and that's your pick, and you've gone through like 20 different. Oh no! Now this is it. This is it. Before you finally end up with the real solution, they really put you through the ringer, and my God, is it gorgeous and wonderful, and just what a trip. If you like mystery games, if you like, you know, whodunits, if you like just exploration and trying to figure things out and using your brain, this is a game that you really should not miss out on. It is fantastic.
Nice. For my number 3, it was really interesting when I looked at third-party games this year because I played a lot of indie games. I played some third-party games, but there weren't a whole lot that I really, really enjoyed. so oddly enough, like there's a game that I try not to do this a whole lot, but my number 3 is a game that I did not play, but oh my gosh, have I heard a ton about this game, and that's Hogwarts Legacy. People talking about it constantly, and my wife talking about it, and so finally getting it on Switch. Had to watch some footage of it and watch other people playing it, and just really enjoyed it. I am not a huge Harry Potter fan. My wife is. She loves it. I think I'm actually gonna try to read the first book soon. So catching up from like 20 years ago. But after I do, that might prompt me to get into this game, because even though I'm not a huge Harry Potter fan, what I see of this game looks so fun and just really draw me in. And honestly, it was one of those games that I heard everybody talking about it when it was out on the other systems. The fact that they were able to bring it over onto the Switch was just great. And so Hogwarts Legacy for my number 3 of the third-party games. Greg, how about you for number 2?
So unfortunately, I followed like your pathway on. This is actually a game that I didn't play, despite my number 3. I fully 100% completed, but I'm very confident because it is a direct sequel to the game that I did play, and that is Octopath Traveler 2. So like I had played the original Octopath Traveler. I didn't unfortunately complete that one, but it was a lot of fun from what I did play. And I feel very confident that like I really love the battle system that they did with that game, with like the different turns, and I just love that art style that they've done with both of these games. Like they just look so incredible and everything. So pretty much just based on that alone was enough for me to put this up on number 2, because it was such a great game that they did the first time around, and I'm that confident that this sequel is probably just everything and more. So that was my number 2 pick, Octopath Traveler 2.
All right, Barry, number 2.
My number 2 came really early this year. I think it was March, and it's funny because this trailer was the one that got me to play it, and the whole series, which is Altalia Ryza 3, Alchemist of the End, and the Secret Key. I had the Altalia games. I bought them all. I just never got around to playing them, and then this trailer played, and I was just like, this looks fantastic. Last year I started with Altalia Ryza 1, and I did 2 and 3 this year, and the 3 obviously came out this year, and I'm so glad I did. Wow, what an adventure. Especially the entire first game's map is one of the worlds right at the start, and it's seamless. Like, it's such a transition between the first game's version of the world and then the third game's version of the world. The alchemy is pretty much tailored to casual. It's not really required. They make it super easy, but they also make it complex if you want to go above and beyond. This is an open world action adventure game with dungeons and turn-based RPG combat, and you don't have to play the first 2 games to enjoy this. It definitely helps, just like anything when you're talking about a third game. But wow, just the graphics, the characters, the settings, the story, the mystery. This helped me make me an Altalia fan. Like, I'm like, when the next game is announced, like, I'll be like, all right, I gotta play that. It's just so good. And if you're even remotely interested, maybe start with the second one. The first one is a little more archaic, but wow, Ryza is such a good character, and this caps off the trilogy so well.
Nice. Well, my number 2 is another game that captured me by the looks and then drew me in, and that is Star Ocean Second Story R, which is, I was seeing it on Barry's face, so shocked that this is on my list. But I never played the original game. I never really didn't know much about the series at all. But as soon as it was announced, I was like, well, that looks kind of cool. And then was able to grab the demo, which is, I think, one of the demos that you have 3 hours with the game, and it just, like, oh my gosh, it really draws me in, and the voice acting and every the world itself, like, so not being able to compare it to the original one, but I'm really drawn in. I love the fact of, like, how they've done it. The action is fun. and battles and everything as well. And so yeah, I was really just totally drawn into this game, and yeah, it really shocked me how much I enjoyed Star Ocean Second Story R. I don't know if I'm going to go back and play the original one or not, but I definitely really enjoy this version. That's number 2. So, Greg, on to you for any honorable mentions and your number 1.
So just 2 honorable mentions for me. I did put Dragon Quest Treasures here. So pretty much the main detractor why I didn't go higher on the list is just like a lot of different backtracking and things you have to do, and a lot of the recruitment stuff. It's kind of not didn't quite make the games enough to move the game higher in the list. Super Bomberman R2, another one I didn't get a chance to play despite picking it up over the last month or so, but pretty much from what Barry had said, it didn't seem like it would land higher on the list. But what did hit the top of the list was surprising to see Steve's as number 3, but it's Hogwarts Legacy. So I have been playing this a lot pretty much since it came out. Like I'm a pretty big Harry Potter fan and was pretty excited for when it was announced over a year ago, and then I was kind of like obviously disheartened when it was kind of delayed till this year, but thankfully sometimes it just makes things that much more fun. So I've really enjoyed my time with the game so far, and I am pretty much still actively playing it, pretty much as I was writing out the rest of my picks and everything. So I've just really enjoyed the story. So it takes place like 100 years before the events of the Harry Potter like stories and everything like that, and then you're pretty much all new characters are all like are not previously part of the series, and it's really cool to be able to experience Hogwarts and go into like some classes, and then even be able to duel and like cast some different spells. So they really made everything a lot of fun and very enjoyable way to experience through the Harry Potter universe. So that was my number 1 pick, Hogwarts Legacy.
Nice. How about you, Barry?
So this honorable mention list is huge because my God, were the third parties amazing here. So just to quickly touch up, Dragon Quest Treasures from last year, I absolutely loved. I completed that game 100%. I just adored that game. I love Dragon Quest 11. And that was a December game, so it's like, oh yeah, that does count now. Star Ocean Second Story R, absolutely loved it as well. I've always been a Star Ocean fan, and while I played the original a little bit, this one I completed, and it's just awesome. Like, so I hope you do go back and do more of it. And then Octopath Traveler 2 also talked about, absolutely loved the game to completion. And in other years, this would probably be there. All of these would be there. In fact, everything here would be there. It's just too big of a list. What a year. So other mentions for me: Sonic Superstars, although it was short, was fun. Silent Hope took me by surprise. Man, I thought I would like this game, and I loved it. This is Diablo Mini, but it hit all the right spots. It's so good. Trinity Trigger would have probably made the list if it wasn't for the fact that it was tailored towards multiplayer, and the AI was really dumb, so I couldn't beat the super bosses. But man, did I really enjoy this game. Ghost Trick, a game I missed out on in the DS outside of the first chapter, but I got to do it this year on the Switch, and phenomenal. Persona 5 Tactica, not a tactics fan, but I love the Persona universe. I love Persona 5. Really great story, a lot of fun. Highly recommend. Theater Rhythm, Final Fantasy Full Bar Line. I love that game. I've been playing it throughout the year as DLC happened. I did all 500 plus songs or 600 songs or whatever it is. Just a phenomenal rhythm game. Final Fantasy love all the way through. And now, oh yeah, Rune Factory 3 Special as well. I enjoyed the Rune Factory games, and while 3 is probably the shortest and not necessarily the best, it's still a great game. But now, here's the caveat to my list. As Atelier Ryza 3 and Master Detective Archives were my number 2 and 3, and they're my number 2 and 3 for one reason and one reason only. Not because they're great, they're great games. Don't get me wrong, I love them, but because I didn't want to make one company sweep this entire list. So, two of my honorable mentions, only because of this, were Legend of Naruto Boundless Trails as well as Legend of Heroes Trails to Azure. Two phenomenal games that I absolutely loved this year, and they are fantastic and well worth your time. Nayuta is like a action RPG, Mario meets Zelda. Very, very fun, and Trails to Azure, the second half of the Crossbow games, absolutely a must play. But that, of course, if you're doing the math, means that one Falcom game did top my list, and that was The Legend of Heroes Trails into Reverie. How could it not? When I talked about Cold Steel 4, I said, this is Avengers Endgame, and Falcom just said, hold my beer, this is Avengers Endgame 2. We're going above and beyond with this one. This is 3 playable campaigns all happening at the same time. This is the equivalent of Cold Steel 5 and Crossbell 3, as well as a brand new set of characters going off onto the 3rd chapter. And you get to bounce between the characters as they're all happening at the same time. And sometimes that involves going through a dungeon with 2 different sets of characters, and they're unlocking doors for each other, or one's dealing with the political fallout in Crossbell while another one's over in the Erebonian Empire trying to deal with what's going on over there. Like, it is so good. So good, and I hate that the entry to get into this game is so high, but oh my god, is this game worth it? This series worth it? It is unbelievable what they're able to do, and they just announced a new game, and I think they got 5 more still to announce. This series is going strong. We're getting new ones next year, which Japan already got. Japan got this so long ago. And this, they had so much content to this that they actually had to make a mode where you could just play little side stories that happen in between Cold Steel 4 and this, just because they didn't fit in with the narrative, but the fans loved those characters so much they wanted to see what happens. Do yourself a favor, if you like JRPGs, do not sleep on the Legend of Heroes series. Do not sleep on this. It's so good, and this game just keeps it up, and I can't wait to see what happens next. Yeah, character-driven, amazing games.
Nice. Not a big surprise there. Not a big
surprise. But I didn't want to make them sweep it. I wanted some diversity there.
Yeah, all fantastic games for sure. And I think it's so hard to determine, what really are the best, and sometimes it comes down to preference. A lot of times, because I know that's a fantastic game, but it's just not my preference, and especially like you said, it's a high entry point to that whole series and everything. In addition to what you guys have said as well, I'm going to say honorable mentions of Red Dead Redemption. Love the fact that it's finally on Switch years and years later, but they were able to finally port it over there, and that's a fantastic game, of course. Disney Illusion Island is on my list of honorable mentions, as well as Sonic Superstars. I love getting back to classic Sonic, and it just looks so good. Like you said, it's a smaller game, but it looks so good. And also Fae Farm and Ghost Trick on there as well on my list. Fantastic game. I got to play the original, and I know how good it is. But a game that is number 1 for me was a question about Greg. Greg, I can confirm that Octopath Traveler 2 is really good. So what you assumed in your number 2 pick, I'm gonna go ahead and put it as my number 1 pick because it's really, really good. As I've said already, there's 3 games so far on my list between indies and third parties that are RPGs, which people know I don't have time for, but these are 3 games that I really enjoyed, and they also all have in common is amazing art style. And has drawn me in, and I love it. And so, like, it's not only great stories, you get to play all these different stories and how they intertwine, and all the story is great, but the art style just draws me in. It's something new, it's something fresh. Yes, it's very similar to Octopath 1, but it just really, it takes it to the next level and really drew me in as well. So Octopath Traveler 2 is my number 1 pick for third party game of the year. So
I'm loving seeing all these RPGs from you, Steve.
I know.
Warms
You're
my
so
heart.
surprised. You're so surprised.
Steve turned over a new stone here, Barry.
Yeah, this is fantastic. So from the community, Dave did not put a did not put a third-party game. Jakester, Octopath Traveler 2, no surprise there, mentioned multiple times. And Blake said he had picked 3 games. Theatrhythm, Final Bar Line, I concur. Trails to Azure, I also concur. And Octopath Traveler 2, we all concur. Fantastic year overall, though.
Nice. Yeah, lots and lots of games of third party, and I think it's so cool that we have so many third party games on a Nintendo system. We've been there in the past. We had a lot of third party games and some other systems as well, of course DS and 3DS. But yeah, it's so great to have so many third party. I believe if I remember correctly, that is your longest list of
Yes.
Honorable mentions there.
Oh yeah, by far. Like just so many. Like I could have made multiple categories out of it. There's just too many games. It's great year.
Yep. Well, let's move on to the Nintendo published or Nintendo developed games as well. And so, of course, there's probably going to be some surprises on this list, but there's most definitely going to be some games that you were not surprised by at all. But what order did they fall in and how did it all line up? We will tell you in just a moment. But big year for Nintendo as well. Barry, I think you've gone on record to say this that 2023 is just as big as 2017, if not bigger.
2023 is the best year for gaming since 2017, is what I say.
And a lot of those games have to do with Nintendo games themselves. So, Greg, kick us off with your number 3 Nintendo developed and published game.
Yeah, I actually thought this year was better than 2017, and this was by far my hardest list, and I was back and forth on where I wanted to put some of these. So, what one finally did end up at number 3 is actually Pikmin 4. So I previously had missed like the first 2 on GameCube, and then I had picked up the third one for Deluxe on Switch. But then as soon as I had enjoyed 3 very immensely, as soon as they finally got the ball rolling on 4, I was one of those day one adopters, and pretty much as soon as I was able to take a break from other Nintendo games, and I was playing through this one. So I played this one all the way through completion. I really enjoyed my time with the game, and I'm definitely a Pikmin fan after having this was my year of the Pikmin, because I beat all 4 games this year. So it was first 3 Deluxe and then 4, and then I went back and played 1 and 2 that they released digitally as well. So definitely was a very great game, and very happy to have it up here very high up on the list as my number 3 pick.
Nice. How about you, Barry?
Ironically, my number 3 pick was the easiest of this to pick, and my number 3 pick goes to Super Mario Brothers Wonder. Just fell in love with this game. I always loved Mario games, and I think 100% of this in just a couple days. I was hooked. I was completely addicted, and even the final level, I was like, no, I'm gonna get through this. I'm gonna push. But yeah, the wonder effects, the way it plays, the control, the uniqueness, the imagination with the levels. I mean, what else needs to be said? I mean, it was up for Game of the Year. I mean, I'm sure most people listening to this have played Mario Wonder, or at least have a remote interest in. And if you don't, that's fine too. But you're at least aware of Mario Wonder and the critical acclaim it's gotten. So yeah, it came late this year, but it definitely won the number 3 spot, and quite easily.
Nice. I'm gonna jump right there with you, Barry, and because Super Mario Brothers Wonder is also my number 3 for all the reasons you said. I think it's a charming 2D platformer that really does a lot of classic Mario very well, but then also brings it into some new light as well, with the different the seeds and the wonder abilities and all those the different what do you call it, the things that you can attach,
badges,
the badges and stuff. Just kind of changes up the game in some really cool ways. I think the only thing is that I wish there was more to it, which is not a bad thing necessarily. It left me wanting more, but that's why it's number 3 and not higher up on the list, because it was I wanted more from it, but what they gave us was really, really fun. So Super Mario Brothers Wonder as in my number 3. So Greg, back to you for number 2.
Yeah, really unfortunate. This still makes my list very difficult to narrow down because there was so many great games and a lot of different series that I absolutely love. So that's why this was continues to be very difficult for me to even play some of these games. So number 2 had to fall down to Fire Emblem Engage. So even though I'm a pretty big Fire Emblem fan, it was unfortunately not enough to take the crown for the year, but I still need to even go play more of the story because I was really sucked in when I was playing it for the first several hours of the when I had the game, and then unfortunately with all these other great games that came along this year, it just unfortunately kind of fell to the wayside, and I feel bad for not continuing it further on. So it's great to have another Fire Emblem game on the Switch, and it was very fun from what I did play, and I love how they connected in all of the previous lords from the earlier in the series, like Marth and like Lucina and everything else like that. So it was really cool that they had representation from all the older games as like these little spirits that could help your fighters like strengthen even further. So that was my number 2 pick, Fire Emblem Engage.
Nice. Barry, how about you for number 2?
This was tough. This was one of those that I had to sit there and had to think, and I'm like, oh my God, this is 2017 all over again. But this time, I think I made the true right choice with this one. As weird as that sounds, but it's Xenoblade Chronicles 3 Future Redeemed is my number 2. And people might be surprised, why is this not your number 1? You love Xenoblade, and I absolutely do. And that boils down to what Steve's criticism of Mario Wonder was, length. This is a shorter RPG, it's 20, 25 hours done because it is a smaller story, and I loved every split second of that story and the entire time running around and defeating all the monsters for the encyclopedia and seeing these characters again and seeing the stories unravel and how it brings everything together for not only just Xenoblade Chronicles as a whole, but Xenosaga, Xenogears. It is so good, and it tells a vital story for the saga, but it's also completely independent, so you can just play it as a standalone. Obviously, it does help a little bit to play Xenoblade 1 and 2, since obviously Shulk and Rex are party members, and it's great to see, the buildup of seeing them older and seeing them wiser, and of course, all the callbacks to Xenoblade 1 and 2, but wow, just what a game. It exceeded my expectations, and to me trumps the other two smaller games, Future Connected and Torna. It is just so good. And if it was longer, if it was just give me another 10, 20, maybe 30 hours longer, this would have been my number 1. But unfortunately, because of that, it does sit at my number 2. But highly recommend it.
All right. People can do the math. They're probably assuming a little bit on number 1s. We'll get there those in just a minute. My number 2 was a game that I loved coming into because I was a big fan of the first game, and I was a pretty big fan of the second game. I didn't really enjoy the third one as much as I did the other ones. But Greg, I'm going to take your number 3 and I'm going to move it up to number 2 for me. Pikmin 4 was a blast to play. I love the changes that they made. I like that it's a little more personal this time, so it focuses on you and the character that you create. But I love what they did with the camera. I think moving that camera down makes a world of a difference, and it really feels like you're in that world so much more. And I know I've talked a lot about graphics in games, and I think it's because of that. It's so important to bring new things to games nowadays and new graphic stuff. And so when they're able to change it up just a little bit and give me a different thing, it grabs my eyes, and it definitely draws me in. It's not the only thing, because the gameplay is really fantastic as well. I like how they brought in Ochi, is that how you pronounce it? The pup, and able to not only have new Pikmin in there, but also different abilities and how all your different teammates and stuff work together, and this whole huge journey that really makes it a lot of fun. And so yeah, Pikmin 4 is my number 2. So moving on to Greg for your any honorable mentions that you might have and your number 1.
Yeah, so for the honorable mentions, like this, I had Kirby's Return to Dreamland. That was an easy one that didn't quite make the top, even though that one was a ton of fun as well. Metroid Prime Remastered is another one, but obviously it's a older game that just brought forward into the current year. And then easily that would have been, that kind of was slightly pushed off the list, was Super Mario Wonder, would have been my number 4. That was where I couldn't even get that there. So in case anyone can't read my shirt in the video version, my number 1 is Tears of the Kingdom. So I am a really big Legend of Zelda fan, along being a Fire Emblem fan, and that's where a lot of the issues kind of fell right there, because it was like which one kind of edges up on top. But I was really sucked into Tears of the Kingdom, and I fully completed everything that I wanted to do, which is essentially everything outside the map stuff and the Korok seeds. So I just had a complete smile on my face the entire time I was doing it. It didn't bother me that I was exploring every corner of the depths and trying to find every last different like manual thing to make new contraptions that I never built in the first place or whatever. But in collecting every single armor piece that was previously amiibo costume for the 90% of them. But I still had a blast playing it from the moment I loaded up until the final battle with Ganon at the end. So that was my number 1 pick with Tears of the Kingdom.
Nice. Barry, how about you?
Yeah, had some good honorable mentions this year. You mentioned Metroid Prime Remastered. I put that, even though I didn't play the Switch version, just, I know it's a great game and got a lot of 10s, and I loved it on GameCube. And the fact that Nintendo underproduced the physicals and had that produced more is awesome. Always gets a plus in my book. Return to Dreamland Deluxe as well, another older game. I loved it on the Wii, and I went through and I loved it on the Switch as well. Just a lot of fun. Another older game, Mario RPG. I really enjoyed Mario RPG. A second time around, it was easier. I got to do it a little faster, but just a ton of fun. And then one of Greg's pick, Fire Emblem Engage. I don't usually play Fire Emblem games. I'm not a big strategy role-playing fan. Came out in January. There really wasn't anything else in January, so I figured, why not? And I really did enjoy it. Auto Battle did help make it a little more enjoyable. But I did like the story, and I did play it through completion. Didn't do the DLC, but I did have fun with it. And another game that came out early this year that took me by surprise, Bayonetta Origins. I don't also normally like games where you control 2 characters, one with one stick and one with the other. But I made it through Bayonetta Origins, had a lot of fun with it. I love the exploration. I love the story. I love the callbacks. And I think like that's a game that a lot of people forget it even it came out, unfortunately. But it was a lot of fun, and I do recommend it. But yeah, as for number 1, it should be pretty obvious. If there's going to be one series that takes out Xenoblade, it's going to be Zelda, and of course that is The Legend of Zelda: Tears of the Kingdom. One of like my last big hurrah before my child was born. Got the Switch year in review, and May was my most played month of the year, or 220 hours into Tears of the Kingdom, which again, that goes with my thing about Xenoblade. Like the only reason Xenoblade went to 2 was because it was shorter. When you compare it to something that gave me 220 hours of enjoyment, it's really hard to top that. And just had a lot of fun. Like Greg, I did everything but the Koroks. I upgraded all the armor. I got all the caves. I got everything I could. Like I just could not get enough of Tears of the Kingdom. It is a masterpiece, and easily takes my number 1 Nintendo game.
Nice. Looking at honorable mentions for me, Detective Pikachu Returns is a fun game as well. Of course, Xenoblade Chronicles 3 Future Redeemed. I got to mention that in there. Barry talked a lot about that already. But it's no surprise. It's Bayonetta 3. Wait a second. No, it is. It's Zelda. What can we say that we haven't said yet? But it's a fantastic game. It's not a perfect game. There are some things that I mean, Barry and Greg have, going on to close to 100% completion or 100% completion already. But I, as I've said on the podcast, kind of taking my time with it, playing little by little. And so there's things that I'm, discovering later, a lot later. But as with Barry as well, May was my biggest time with the game as well. Like put in the whole year and love the game, love the original Breath of the Wild. Love what they've done with this one. My biggest complaint really is the different partners that you get and how much they get in the way. But that's it. Like that of the rest of the game, I've had no real complaints about the game except for those those people that join your party and they're never there when you want them and they're always getting in the way. But the rest of the game's fun. There's some things that they have fixed with building and stuff like that, and some patches that have made it more of an enjoyable experience and things like that. But I love the story. I love how they went darker with it. This one, it felt different playing this game. I was like, oh, I am kind of intrigued by what's going on a lot more than I really ever have been with a Zelda game before. And I think that's really cool. It's just like at this point, they've drawn in, they've told so many different stories along with these characters, but they're able to pull out something new that still drew me in, even though the basic idea of like, oh, you have to go to these 4 different temples and beat them and then go take out Ganon or whatever, but they were able to do it in a new and fresh way that made me really, of course, drawn into it yet all over again. So yeah, Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, my number 1 Nintendo developed and published game of 2023, as well as Barry's and Greg's. So
big surprise.
Zelda getting a lot of love.
A lot of love. So we do have some comments and from the peanut gallery, so to speak. Dave said Tears of the Kingdom. Jakester said Pikmin 4. So we got Pikmin 4 there. New Dad Gaming Podcast on Twitter said Metroid Prime. And then Blake said that Fire Emblem Engage, Mario Wonder, and Zelda Tears of the Kingdom topping it. And I forgot to mention this from last time, so I just want to call out Dragon Lord XX84 said for third party, he said Altilia Ryza 3, Trails of Azure, and Cry Machina. So this is a game we haven't talked about, but some more love for RPGs. I love to see.
Cool. Well, let's move away from Nintendo because as we've talked about before, there's other games out there. A couple of us have different systems, and some of us play on different systems just as much in Nintendo, or maybe sometimes more. I know for myself, I've switched over, and I don't play Rocket League on Switch anymore for various reasons. I'm playing it mostly on my Xbox and get some other time with some other games. This is one of the categories that maybe those of us that on the panel have not played all these games, but as we look from afar, we see videos and all that stuff online. We can't play everything. We try to play as much Nintendo games as we can, but these are games that either we played or, again, as we've seen them online and seen gameplay trailers and gameplay online on Twitch and streamers and all that stuff. These are the non-Nintendo system games that really stood out to us this year. So these games are not on Switch. Looking at our list, I don't know if any of these games will ever come out on Switch. Probably not, because they are all pushing some limits. And I'm giving a little spoilers because I can see all of our picks at once. But I know they're all pushing in some really fun and good directions on other systems. So kick us off there with number 3, Greg, on your non-Nintendo system.
Yeah, so pretty much as with previous years, I'm one person that's excluded from the couple that has extra consoles, so a lot of my comments will be much shorter than your guys's, I'm sure. So right off the bat, number three is going to be Diablo 4. So I mean, I my cousin has been. I remember him playing like Diablo like 2 or 3 on the computer back in the 90s or whatever, and it always seemed kind of interesting to try to play. And then I did see that 2 and 3 did release on Switch, I think last year or maybe the year before or something like that. And I still haven't gotten around to kick through them to be able to enjoy them yet. But if I did have another console to actually play like the latest one on, I'm likely probably would have picked this one up. So number three would be Diablo 4.
Nice, nice. Barry, how about you? Oh, you're muted, Barry.
That's funny. I also picked Diablo 4 as my number three. It might have even been higher if it wasn't for the always online, but I did have a lot of fun with it. I've always been a fan of Diablo since the beginning, and I played Diablo 3 on the Switch. Actually, that's where I completed it. 2 I did on PC, but I'm glad it is on the Switch as well. But now Diablo 4, it's good. The online stuff works. I just hate that it has to be online to do the single player components. But if there were less games this year, I probably would have gotten higher. I did even in order to get higher level than 50, you have to up the difficulty. So I actually upped the difficulty to join a higher server to do more of that content to get higher level, and just had a blast with it. It is really fun, but it does, like typical, get repetitive as you just constantly farm for better loot. And if I had, people playing it, I might have been higher even still. But I did enjoy it, and I do recommend it. I just wish they would make it so that it doesn't have to be online to play single player. But I did enjoy it.
Nice, nice. I did not pick Diablo 4. It's a fantastic looking game, but I did not pick it. I picked a game that I am so surprised that is still getting my attention this many years later. Huge fan of playing it in the arcade and also on Super Nintendo, and the fact that Street Fighter 6 is this good and able to move like not only the gameplay but story and all this stuff and put it in a game. It's so good. And so yeah, I think the only thing that I don't like about Street Fighter anymore is that I'm no good at it anymore. Like I'm just not. Like I can play against the the AI and stuff and be fine, but there's no way I can't play online or anything because people just kill me. It's so bad.
Street Fighter
Same.
6 actually made it easier for that, though. They made simplified the controls that anyone can actually play Street Fighter 6 and do well.
Yeah, I still don't do that good, but I appreciate that of them for sure. But yeah, Street Fighter 6, it looks so good, and yeah, plays well as well. But Street Fighter 6 is my number 3. Greg, number 2.
Number two, I series that unfortunately abandoned Nintendo back on Nintendo 64. So this would be none other than Final Fantasy 16. So pretty much since Final Fantasy 6, they decided they didn't want to be on Nintendo consoles up until some more recently when they finally were able to shake hands. So yeah, I don't really follow a lot of Final Fantasy since, but I mean it is a very great RPG series, and I would surely be playing all through these if I had decided to get PlayStation consoles. So um, there's not really a whole lot to say because I can't really haven't played a recent Final Fantasy game in quite some time. So I just can't. Hopefully they are able to port it to the Switch 2 or whatever like, later on when that comes available. But yeah, that would be my number two pick with Final Fantasy 16.
Nice. Barry, how about you for number 2?
Well, you got good taste there, Greg, because mine was also Final Fantasy 16. Big fan of Yoshida. Love what he did with Final Fantasy 14. And while I'm not as big of a fan of the action combat, I like the story. Final Fantasy 16 had a really good story. Also wasn't a fan of having only one person for your party with Clive. Everyone else being like guest characters. So you really couldn't like equip them. The only thing you could equip was of course Torgal, your good best boy Torgal. But what a story, what an adventure. They just announced DLC for it, so I was like, oh, I guess I'm going back to 16's world, um, because I had so much fun with it. And is it the best Final Fantasy? No, it's not. But is it better than 15? Absolutely. Absolutely in every way. I like the fact that there's the different primals that everyone turns into, and then as Clive, you get the ability to have multiple powers, so you could switch between like Garuda to a Freet to Phoenix to Titan to Rama, and just use all those different abilities. And the battles between the primals are just spectacular. Music is great, and just there's so much to it that I can't say much more without spoiling. But if you have a PS5, I highly recommend 16.
Nice, nice. I did not pick Final Fantasy 16, although fantastic
Come on,
game, but I did not
come on,
pick
Steve.
that. I went with another game that really is tempting me to get a PS5. So I'll go that similar route, and that's Spider-Man 2. I love the first Spider-Man game, and this one looks so much fun, and I'm so upset that I can't play it because I don't have a PS5. But that's really the only thing holding me back from getting this game. And so if anybody wants to donate a PS5, I'll gladly take it, and then I'll promptly play Spider-Man 2 on this game on the console. But yeah, being able to bring in Peter Parker and Miles Morales together, and just everything I see from this game looks so much fun, and it's so exciting. And yeah, I think I'm just upset that I can't play it. But I enjoyed the first one a lot, and this one looks even better, and sounds like everybody is saying it's even better as well. And so that's why it's got my number 2 for non-Nintendo console. So, Greg, time for any honorable mentions, and then your number 1.
Well, I didn't really expand out a lot of research, so I don't have any honorable mentions for the particular category. So I guess I'll be jumping right to number 1, and it'll probably have to be the game that snubbed Tears of the Kingdom in the Game Awards, so Baldur's Gate 3. Somehow I have a feeling that Barry's going to probably agree with me here, and I'll have a lot more to actually say about it. But from what I've read online, everything seemed like it was a lot of fun and would be pretty much one of the only games to release this year that actually could beat Tears of the Kingdom. So, yeah, if I had a PlayStation, then I would have loved to be able to play this one as well, or unless it was Xbox, I don't know for sure, but unless it's either one, but whichever. Yeah, that would be number 1 pick would be the Baldur's Gate 3.
Nice, nice. Barry, how about your number
So
1?
I have some honorable mentions. So you mentioned Street Fighter 6. That was one of them for me. World Tour mode really captivated me. I had so much fun. Didn't really expect Street Fighter 6 to become an RPG, but it is. It is a lot of fun. The combat, the battles are good. I didn't even do much of the online stuff or the single player arcade. Like it was all World Tour for me. Mortal Kombat 1 was also a lot of fun. I love the story, even though it's campy as hell. It doesn't matter. I just enjoy Mortal Kombat story for some reason. And I even did a little bit of the if it was invasion mode, which got repetitive, but I did a little bit of it. Spider-Man 2 was in there. I enjoyed Spider-Man 2. You'll enjoy it too, Steve. Did not platinum it or anything, but I did complete it and had a lot of fun with it. And a game I did not expect. One of those games where it's like, hey, it's downtime. Let me put in a game. This looks interesting. Sword and Fairy 7 Together Forever. Really a lot of fun Chinese RPG. Great cast of characters, great story, beautiful graphics, and had a lot of blast with it. But yeah, my number 1 and my most played game on the PlayStation for this year, Baldur's Gate 3. Uh, I mean, I was excited for this game since it was announced. I enjoyed the original back on the PC, and I actually bought it in advance because it was like August it comes out. I'm like, yeah, I get it. And I was like, oh, PlayStation comes out like September. I'm like, wait, what? No, I gotta wait another month. That no fair. I bought the PlayStation version. But then of course it came out, and I bought this digitally because the physical wasn't even announced yet. But I was like, all right, I'll buy this digitally just to play it. And I had the terrible bug at the end of Act 2 that prevented me from finishing it, and I actually decided to go back and rarely do I go back to a game. And I went back to try and get past that bug, and I did. And the third act is huge and crazy, and I completed the game. And I know people like, I'm going back for another playthrough, and that's not me, but I could definitely see myself going back in, like, do an evil playthrough or something like that, because it is very varied. There's characters that I never got to see, or they just like disappeared from my game, like I just didn't recruit them in time or whatever. So it is very much D&D, single player D&D. And if you like single player D&D, if you like that type of thing, it's great. My biggest complaint was the battles, because like D&D, it's a strategy role playing game. It's like Fire Emblem, and I'm like, oh, I don't like these kind of battles, but the story was good enough and the interactions were good enough and the dialogue was good enough that I'm like, all right, I'm gonna push through and I'm going to do these battles. And I do not regret that one bit. It is an adventure, and an awesome one at that.
Nice. Yeah, lots of good games out for non-Nintendo systems this year. I did not play too many. My Xbox is basically a Rocket League machine, and maybe a couple other things that I'll talk about later. But now that it is on Xbox, I may be going back and getting my number one pick, and that is Baldur's Gate 3. So the one game that we do agree on across the board. And Barry's talked about how great it is already. The Game Awards, it topped Tears of the Kingdom. I did not know about this series before 3. I didn't know Baldur's Gate 1 or 2 for whatever reason. Just didn't know it. I missed out on it. But then
they're on Twitch.
Really? Okay. Yeah. So, but then, hearing more about from Barry and other people as well, the fact that it's like Dungeons and Dragons and getting able to, go on these campaigns and stuff, it just sounds like a blast, honestly, and sounds like something I would really, really enjoy. And from the gameplay that I've seen online and hearing other people talk about it, it just looks like it'd be so much fun. I'm also kind of a little hesitant about the battle system, like you said as well, Barry, but I don't know if it'd be something I really, really enjoy, but I feel like the rest of the game will make up for that sort of a thing. And it looks great. It's so fantastical, and every time I watch another trailer or gameplay or anything like that, it just draws me in even more. So yeah, Baldur's Gate 3, and maybe sometime soon I'll actually play it, because it looks like a lot of fun.
Comes to Xbox next year. But yeah, 1 and 2 came out physically as well as digitally together, so you get it with all the expansions. So one price gets you both games. Absolutely worth checking out. In fact, while I was playing this, my wife was so hooked that she went and busted into our physical copy and started playing Baldur's Gate 1 and loved it. So I definitely recommend that. On a non-Nintendo system, we've got Dave from Discord say, like a Dragon Gaiden. He's a very big Yakuza fan, so that does not surprise me. Jakester said Pokemon Sleep, which is not on Nintendo. It's on mobile, so that does count. Let's see. New Dead Gaming said Final Fantasy 16. And in the chat, Blake said Final Fantasy 16, Spider-Man 2, and Baldur's Gate 3. So lots of great games this year. Definitely a year of RPGs.
Yeah.
I also find it funny that Greg picked exact order my 3 without playing any of them. That's great. He's got good taste.
As your list come through, like a little behind the scenes for you guys that don't know, that Barry and Greg submit them to me, unknowing what each of their pick. I write down my picks before I look at theirs, and so we all submit our picks together. I submit mine to myself, and then I get out on myself if I don't have a deadline. But then I put them all together and I put the list together. I was like, huh. That's interesting. Like, maybe I picked the wrong games. So I agree that the other 2 games you guys said are fantastic games, but yeah, I think that's what comes down to more preference when it comes down to that sort of thing. Like Spider-Man and fighting games are just more my preference than Final Fantasy and Diablo, but they're also fantastic fantastic games for sure. So the next category is one that we instituted a couple years ago that I really enjoy. As I like talking about the games that we love and we played all year that have been so much fun. But it's also fun to talk about the games that we did not enjoy. So we're gonna have some fun with the top 3 games that we did not enjoy this year. So the worst games of 2023, and this is the one category that we do put this on our criteria that we have to have played these games. This is not just looking at a game from afar and going, "Oh, that was probably horrible." But these are actual games that we have played, and so of our top 3 worst games of the year, Greg, kick us off with your number 3.
Yeah, so I was unfortunately absent from the game chat that you guys had done last time around, so I wanted to make sure to get some full time to see if it might have made my indie list. So number 3 actually had to put full quiet. So I did try to load it up, and I was having all sorts of difficulties trying to even get anywhere. So I literally only made it like a few screens in, and I couldn't even get anywhere because I kept dying. Like the enemies would just either kill me or I'd fall off the rope, and then I lose all my health instantaneously. So I don't know, and then I'd just respawn right all the way back at the start, and then have to try to do it all again and try to do things differently. But I was not having a lot of fun with it, and I couldn't really figure out where to go, and I didn't even get very far just because it just wasn't very enjoyable to be replaying the same 6 screens over and over again. So that was my number 3 pick.
That's that's an addendum to our game chat as well. That's funny, Greg. I knew you were going to play it and you're going to have some extra words to say in addition to last episode, but didn't see it coming on your worst games of the year.
I didn't see that either.
That's great. Very number 3.
It pains me to put this as number 3. In fact, it wasn't my original number 3 because I do my list as I play through games. So for the longest time, my top 3 have been the same for this category until I played this. And this is the fastest I think I've ever put a cartridge in and taken a cartridge out of my system, and that is Super Bomberman R2. And boy, was I disappointed. I wanted to love this game. I love the Bomberman games. I'm like, all right, let's do it. I'm in for a little story. I enjoyed Super Bomberman R. It was a launch title, but after Breath of the Wild, I did play it, and I did enjoy it. And I was like, all right, let's do this. And this started out, and I was like, all right, so not bad. I'm in this overworld, and it's very open, and I'm like, okay, I'm bombing things and nothing's dropping. I'm like, that's half the point of Bomberman is to get drops. And then it's like, oh, you need to defend, and I'm like, okay, so I place bombs to defend, and the enemies just walk through the bombs. And then I realized I could walk through the bombs, and I'm like, what? No, that's not how this works. What did you do? And then it's like, all right, now you're going to need to set up your defenses. And now Bomberman is at the tower defense. And I'm like, I'm not playing Bomberman to be a tower defense. I want to play Bomberman for Bomberman. So the battle mode, fair disclosure, I did not play. And it looks fantastic. It looks like a lot of fun. And with friends, I'm sure the battle mode redeems this game. But I didn't touch that. I was so turned off by the single player that I just took it all out of my Switch, put it back in the case, and put it back on my shelf, and it probably will remain there for the end of time. I am so disappointed in what they did to Bomberman with this game. I hope if there's a third game, they fix it, but boy, was this a bad disappointment.
Nice. If I'm not mistaken, Greg, you really enjoyed Super Bomberman R2, didn't you?
No, I prefaced it saying I didn't play it, but I had as mentioned.
Oh, okay.
I did buy it, but I didn't get a chance to play it, and then based on Barry's kind of neutral-ish review, I didn't want to insert that.
I hope you enjoy it more. If you like tower defense, you'll love it, but I hope you enjoy it more than I did.
Number 3 for me, I actually went back, and this is a game that I think, if I'm not mistaken, little spoiler, 2 of my top 3 I've talked about on previous podcasts. And so just for fun, I went back and listened to my little review of my number 3 game, and yeah, totally agree with it still. And that is Hyper 5. Hyper 5 is a shmup game that really promised a whole lot, but I did not enjoy it at all. It's it looks really good, but contrary to other games that I have praised for their graphics, the graphics could not make up for this game. I just had a horrible time with it, mainly because it's incredibly difficult. It is a lot of times you're bombarded with enemy ships that completely come out of the blue, and it's random, so it's not always the case. So it's not like a Mega Man kind of game where you learn and then next time you do better. Sometimes it's random of where these enemy ships come from, and they're just shooting at you like crazy. And then you make these passes at the boss, and you just turn around, and it's a wasted cutscene that is the same every time, and it just it was just not a good experience. There are a lot better shmups out there, and did not have a good time with Hyper 5, even though it looks fantastic. And the trailer sells the game. It looks awesome, but then the gameplay is just trash. So not a big fan of Hyper 5. So number 2, Greg.
Yeah, so I had pretty much just did like a splurge purchase. I saw this on the eShop one day. Like the title just sounds very, very interesting. It'll be right up my alley. But then, of course, when I started playing it, it was not quite what I actually envisioned it being. So this is Mage and Monsters. Pretty much like it's like this like hoarding type battle type thing where you get to buy a few creatures and then you just kind of let them all loose and then they just like auto fight in the center, and then you can kind of try to pick like which one to control or to try to help defeat some of the other armies. So I had a lot of difficulty even trying to beat like the very first level, which you're supposed to be able to. Most games that you play, you want to be able to at least be able to beat like one round to kind of understand like how to play and do better. But that it actually took me a few tries to actually beat the first round. Then each round gets more subsequently harder as they throw in other types of monsters and even more enemies on screen, as you can see in the trailer. So it was not my cup of tea. And my number 2 was at Mage and Monsters.
Nice. Barry, how about your number 2?
My number 2 was shown off in a Nintendo Direct, and I was like, oh, that could be fun. Oh, it's only 99 cents? All right. And that is WBSC eBaseball Power Pros from Konami. And I was like, all right. I've always enjoyed Konami's weird little, they're kind of like J Sports baseball games, And I was like, all right, I'll try this one. It looks kind of cool. It looks kind of cute. And we don't really have much good baseball, at least on the Switch. And boy, did I understand why I paid 99 cents for it. It is not even worth that 99 cents. I want my money back. This is bad. This is just a bad game. I think it's just like highway robbery that they even charged 99 cents for us. And then from Konami, it's like, oh man. In Japan, they got like a full-fledged game with amiibo and everything. Why don't we get that? We get this garbage. Don't buy this game. It is terrible, and I can't believe it even made it into a Nintendo Direct.
That's funny. It's also funny because there's a theme going here of games that we thought we would enjoy based on previous games that are in the same kind of genre sort of thing, and that's my number 2. And I recently played this game. In fact, I got it for free just the other day, and that game is Cat Lord. Cat Lord is a twin stick shooter, and I am a big fan of twin stick shooters. It's a game that I like, a style of game that I played when I was really young, loved it, and then rediscovered the genre years later. Love it. It's not a twin stick shooter at all. It's a one stick shooter that automatically shoots. So you don't actually use your right analog stick. You just use the left one to move around, and it automatically shoots around. And it's just hordes of enemies that are coming on you, and you can't even shoot where you want. So you're basically just escaping the whole time and hoping the AI will shoot in the right direction. And sure, it's cute if you like cats, but that's the only good thing it's got, I guess. So not a big fan of
That's
cat lore.
Vampire Survivors. That's what they did. It's Vampire Survivors as cats. That's
Cool. There you
I
go.
got it for free too. Now I know not to play it.
Yeah, you can avoid that one. All right, Greg, number one, or any dishonorable mentions that you have as well?
Don't have any dishonorable mentions, thankfully, this time around. But yeah, this was like another review game that we had received earlier this year. So my number one for worst game of the year would be Oddballers. So this was just like a very chaotic mini game type thing with just a bunch of crazy different things, and I don't know, I just didn't really quite get it, and it was like way too over the top and really random like type games and everything, and just really wasn't really my cup of tea at all. So yeah, I didn't really even play this on very long, and just played a few rounds, and just like doesn't seem to be what I signed up thinking, what I initially thought it was going to be. So yeah, that's my number one.
Nice. Barry, any dishonorable mentions on your number one?
Yeah, I actually forgot about Oddballers. It was so bad that my mind made me forget. So it would probably be on my list, but because of that, it's definitely a dishonorable mention. That game is terrible. Oh God, is that game bad? So thanks for the PTSD of reminding me about that one, Greg. My brain was trying to protect me. The other dishonorable mention I have, besides that, which was on my list before I put Bomberman in my card slot, was Gun Tech 2, which is a game that's I believe, Steve, you and I reviewed that.
Yep.
And that was pretty bad. But no, my number one was I saw someone on Twitter say like, "Oh, I got this with my family and we played it. It's free. It was a lot of fun." I'm like, "Oh, cool, free of fun. Let me try it." Oh boy, thanks for wasting my time. It's Tray Racers and it's terrible. Oh my God, this game is not worth the price of admission of free. It is just garbage. It is the worst racing game I think I've ever played. Riddled with microtransactions. It's just terrible, like ugly art style, ugly character models, ugly worlds. It you play online, there's like no one to play with. It's just bad. It's bad in every definition of the word is bad. It is not worth your time. If you think this trailer looks remotely good, then give it a try, but don't come crying to me when you realize how garbage this game is. It is, yeah, it's bad. It is to put it to you this way, Oddballers is a better game than this, okay? Even if I put Oddballers on my list, this would have topped it. So that says volumes. Stay away from this piece of garbage.
That's great. Oh man! So at the start of this episode, I told you guys that I played a lot of third-party games this year, and as you noticed that I didn't have a huge list of honorable mentions for third-party games and indie games. I had some on that list because I have a long list of games that I did not enjoy this year that I played. A few of them. We don't have time for me to list them all, but a few of them. Desktop Basketball 2, garbage, like just garbage. You don't even understand. Like it's this. Here's one thing. They use, if you've played any basketball video game before, you would know this is crazy. They put jump and steal on the same button. So when you're close to someone, it's up to the AI what they think you want to do, whether you want to jump or you want to steal. So you're basically just hammering the A button the whole time and just hoping that you do something great. A Super Adventure Hand is a really weird game where you're a hand that's walking around. So it's really creepy and weird, and it's the physics is not that great as well. Ebenezer Invisible World. Talked about this on a previous episode as well. Not a big fan of this game. Thought it was going to be great with the kind of Metroidvania style of Ebenezer, the Christmas Carol concept, but not that great. Rubber Bandits. It's on a previous episode as well. You can just go back and hear my ranting about Rubber Bandits. It's a horrible experience. No Son of Mine is really weird and kind of creepy as well, but also weird. Strayed Lights, another bad experience, and I did put on there Full Quiet. I didn't enjoy Full Quiet a lot, but it's a dishonorable mention because my number one game. I don't know, Barry. If you say that yours was even worse than Oddballers, I have a feeling that this can definitely top Tray Racers. My number one of the worst games of this year is a game called Kikarinho World, and I talked about this on a previous episode. You're basically juggling a soccer ball, and yet the controls are just trash, and you don't know if you're actually if you're actually timing your hits right or not. And I think it's reverse if I remember correctly, and so you're hitting the opposite, so it's right on you, but it's the left on him on the screen, and the timing and it's just bad overall. And on top of this, it looks like it was an early game on the Wii. So like it's just a horrible, probably a mobile game that they ported over just to get a quick buck. And I do not advise you spending any money on that. I think I got it for free. I hope I got it for free. I don't know. I don't think anybody should be paying money for this game, but yeah, it's digital, so I didn't get the opportunity to put a cartridge in and take it out real quick, but I hit the home button, hit cancel as quick as I could, and turned it off. But yeah, Kikarinho World, which I'm sure I'm mispronouncing that, but I don't really care. It's a trash game. So
I don't know. That does look really. So let's look at the community. Dave said worst game of the year, WarioWare Move It. I didn't think it was that bad. Yeah, the motion controls definitely were hit and miss, but I think it's harsh for worst game. But Dave did not like it. Jake's just said Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3. That is obviously a big running joke. But Modern Warfare 3 about how terrible it is. So I don't blame you there one bit. And that was all for worst game, but we have a couple overall.
Nice. I always enjoy that category just to get some frustrations out from being built up over the year of playing some really bad games. So here we are moving into our overall best game or game of the year. And so
do you want to do that, or do you want to do the other games first?
We can talk about the other games if you want to. Yeah, we can switch that up and talk about other.
That's how you have it in the order.
Oh, actually I don't, but that's okay. So we're going to talk about overall, and then we'll cover the game of the year. But we can do that first. So what are some game experiences that didn't come out this year, but maybe you discovered this year and that you want to talk about? So this is, not in the game of the year for 2023. But if you could go back in time, maybe it would have ended up on your 2022 list or 2021 list or even further back. Some games that you discovered that came out previous years, but you played this year and had a really good time. Greg, anything coming to your mind?
Actually, not really. I spent a lot of time playing a lot of the stuff that came out this year. I didn't really hit the backlog too deeply, so I don't think that there is going to be anything here. I mean, I know like next year I'll probably have like Super Mario RPG because I didn't even pick that one up, so I imagine that would make like a next year's list. But I don't think I really played anything for the first time, like out of the year. But at least like nothing I can recall. I didn't even write anything down for it. So yeah, didn't really have anything here, I don't think.
All right. Barry, how about you?
Yeah, for me, the biggest one was Altalia Raza 2. Did that earlier this year before 3 and absolutely fell in love with it and in love with that series. That came out a while ago. And then I guess next one would be Rhapsody, since I did that earlier. And now I'm in the middle of doing Rhapsody 2. So that actually came out this year for the Switch. So that actually, I guess, would be an honorable mention in the third party Rhapsody 2 and 3. And I'm almost done with 2. And they're really quirky little JRPGs, fun little stories or musicals. They break into song and dance periodically, and um, just a lot of fun. But yeah, definitely the best of them was Altaria Ryza 2. Like, wow, what a game! Just awesome.
Nice. Yeah, there's a few different games that I went back and played that I didn't have before. And one let's see, I'm trying to remember correctly. I'm pull up my Switch real quick because I was thinking of it earlier and I forgot to write it down. Um, shoot. I'll think of it before I finish. But one game that I played over on Xbox not too long ago because it was on sale. Ended up getting Forza Horizon 5. I had 3, and I think I played a good chunk of 4 as well, but I hadn't gotten 5, and played that quite a bit. And another game that um, it's because of Rocket League that sucked me in. But Rocket Racing came over to Fortnite, and so I was like, okay, I got to boot up Fortnite, and it's been the first time that I booted up Fortnite in maybe close to a year. And the next thing I know, between Rocket Racing and Lego Fortnite, I'm putting hours and hours into Fortnite. And I was like, what am I doing? Like, this is
Turned into
like,
Hassan.
I know. All of a sudden I'm like playing, if I turn on the Xbox, I was actually turning on Fortnite before I would Rocket League sometimes. And it was really interesting. And it's so crazy what they've done with that game and just turned it into so much more than just the Battle Royale stuff now. So I think that was something that really shocked me. And of course, Fortnite's an older game now, but they're just making it new all the time and developing it into this huge thing. And all of a sudden now I'm sucked into Fortnite, which is really surprising me to say. A couple of other games that I have played on iPhone, I think, or iPad. But recently I got on Switch was What the Golf. I know Greg's a big fan of What the Golf. Played that, got that this last year, as well as there's a couple other games as well that I can't remember. Figment was one of them, I think. Figment 1 and 2, played those. Those are really interesting as well. Yeah, lots of games that are still out there that are on our backlog that we're kind of working through as well. Going to the chat real quick. It looks like Jakester saying it makes it look like we go through shovelware games before the end of the year. That is not the case. If you remember, at least for me, these were games that I played back in February and March, and I reviewed them on podcast episodes, and they are still standing out as bad games this many months later. The only one that I played just a few days ago was Cat Lord. Yeah, like I know you guys played some of these games quite a while ago as well. So yeah, we don't go through and get the shovelware in at the end.
Yeah, and I'll just go on the eShop and like, ooh, what can I add to this list? I mean, Full Quiet was just like more of a happenstance. That was like the only one that I did get recently, but that's also because it came out recently.
We did Oddballers back in January, which is one of the reasons I forgot about it. It was so long ago.
Yeah, I think Hyper 5 was February, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, so. Tray Racers, I think I did was like March or something like that. It was
Yep. All right. Well, now it's time to head into our overall picks. And so of all the different categories for Switch console games, we've got the indie games, the third-party games, and the Nintendo developed and published games. We came up with our overall list of our top 3 games. So all honorable mentions and everything are aside for this category because these are games that have already showed up in previous lists. And so we all made our top 3 overall Nintendo Switch games of this year. So we're going to kick it off, of course, with Greg and his number 3 overall game.
Well, good thing it was your number 3 when we did the category, but it was Hogwarts Legacy. So I don't really know what else I can really say. I mean, I really enjoyed my time with the game, and it is a fantastic representation of being able to play like a Harry Potter like game on the Switch, and along with other consoles that it's out on as well. So the combat and everything is really great. It's not just straightforward, just a couple button presses and it's over. Like you actually have to do combos and other things as well too. And there's quite an interesting story there, and I'm looking forward to playing this more into 2024. So that was my number 3 overall.
Nice. Barry, number 3 overall.
Quickly, I just went back and looked. Baseball I did in February, and Tray Racers was April. So it was definitely not at the end of the year. But no, number 3 overall for me had to fall to Legend of Heroes: Trails into Reverie. What a phenomenal game, and it really just took all my attention. It was really hard to actually get through it as fast as I wanted to because my son was born at that time, but it was just so good. In fact, this was the game I was supposed to be playing in the hospital room when he came. He was supposed to be born a week after this game came out, and I was like, I got a week to do this. And of course, he came early, so in these early years of his life, when he was sleeping, this is what I was playing. So, highly recommend it, and easily my number 3 game of the year.
Nice. Yeah, my number 3 takes a page. I think I did this a couple years ago where it kind of surprised me. But again, as I said earlier, this is a game that I spent a ton of time with, and I really enjoyed almost every second I had with it. I can't say it was perfect, but I really enjoyed this game. Love the developers, and that is Harmony: The Fall of Reverie is my number 3 overall game. Just really drawn into, like I said, the story, the way they tell this narrative. It's a different way that, honestly, I was turned off a little bit by the whole tree of different options and stuff in the beginning, but after just a few rounds with the game, like I all of a sudden understood it. And then I really enjoyed what it has to give, and really enjoyed it. So if you do play it, give it a little bit in the beginning if you don't quite get it, because you should get it eventually, and you'll be drawn in just as I was as well. And yeah, I really enjoy the story, and this is a game you could play several different times because it has different outcomes based on choices you make. So Harmony: Fall of Reverie, number 3 for me. Greg, number 2.
Well, number 2, I really wish it could have been number 1, obviously, but it didn't quite make it up that far. But number 2, I had to put Fire Emblem Engage. So I am a pretty big Fire Emblem fan, and it still saddens me that I have not gotten where to complete the game or go through the story fully. So I'm almost sensing like a Fire Emblem like marathon approaching, so then I can get caught up on the Fire Emblem stories to have those completed. So from what I did play, it was a ton of fun, and I really, as I was said previously, it was really cool to see all the different lords and stuff from the previous games all coming in as spirits and everything to help guide you and train your characters further. And everything was just a blast from what I did play, and I just look forward to be able to hopefully finish the story at some point soon. It was number 2.
Nice. Barry, number 2 overall for you.
Should be no surprise. I hate that it's not number 1, but damn length, Xenoblade Chronicles 3, Future Redeemed. That is my number 2. It's just so good. It getting snubbed all over because it's given out as DLC as opposed to just a standalone digital. Even though other DLC stuff like Cyberpunk gets nominated, people just sleeping on this, which is unfortunate, especially with Xenoblade 3 getting nominated last year for Game of the Year by a lot of outlets. But do not sleep on this game. This game is so good, so much fun, and it's I can't gush enough about it. Play this game.
Nice. Number 2 for me is a game that I didn't play when it came out. Because I didn't really enjoy 3 as much as I really wanted to, but recently started playing Pikmin 4, and my goodness, I'm kind of sad that I didn't play it earlier. I knew it was going to be good. I didn't realize how good it was going to be, and it felt fresh and new and exciting. Where I think 3 for me, having played 1 and 2, wasn't as fresh and exciting. But 4, all of a sudden, I was being drawn into a world that I love with Pikmin 4, but they were able to make it so much more exciting in a completely different way. Like I said earlier, the gameplay, the way they bring the camera down to make you feel in it a lot more, and where you're able to personalize it a little more. This is just a great experience. So Pikmin 4, number 2. Greg, on to number 1.
Well, I guess I've kind of foreshadowed it, so I guess I might as well kick the train off going, because seems like everybody's number 2 from this category was their number 2 overall. So I guess without further ado, Tears of the Kingdom made number 1. So it's definitely my favorite Zelda game of all time. It's past Breath of the Wild, and it's not the perfect game. There's still things that I wish that they could fix and do better, like dungeons and other sorts of things where you're not just mindlessly collecting Korok seeds and other kind of garbage like that. But overall, I put the most time into this game this year, and this was easily hands down my most favorite Zelda experience that I've done, even though I've tread through the world of Hyrule in 2017. So I'm excited to see where the Zelda series goes. I understand that they're done with this map of Hyrule, which will be a nice change of pace, but I really hope they keep a lot of the open aspects that they did do with Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. So I don't know what else I could say, but this is definitely usually my game of the year and my all-time favorite Zelda game at the time of the podcast.
Nice.
So it's number 1.
Barry, number 1.
My number 1 is Tray Racers. No, what? No, I'm kidding. It's obviously Tears of the Kingdom. I mean, it has to be. I mean, it's process of elimination, like Greg said. All our number 2s of the category are our number 2 overall. So, what could be number 1? It could amount to so many things about this game, but definitely the length and the joy that it brought, and it's just. It's probably the only midnight launch I did this year, and it's the first midnight launch I've done in a long time, where I actually went to a physical midnight launch and celebrated with other fans, and it was a lot of fun. And yeah, I mean, look, if you're listening to this at this point and you haven't played Tears of the Kingdom, you either are waiting for Christmas or you have no interest, and that's okay. But if you played Tears of the Kingdom, we're probably boring you at this point for gushing about it this much. So just play it. It's awesome. It's a fantastic game, and I'll let Steve continue because I'm fairly certain he's going to continue.
What gave it away that Tears of the Kingdom is also my number 1 pick? But yeah, surprise. I really don't know what else to say about this game. I'll say this. I was surprised at how much I enjoyed the gimmick. I didn't think I would enjoy the idea of like him getting his arm cut off, and that's how you get these different powers and stuff. And all of a sudden I was like, you know what? It works. I kind of like this. I still feel bad for Link, losing his arm and having to, get an arm from a dead corpse attached to him. But, whatever. That was kind of redundant, dead corpse. Anyway, yeah. I enjoy it.
Well, Redeads exist, so
yeah, I guess so. I don't enjoy that the people in my party get in the way all the time, and they're not where I want them to be. Nintendo, please fix that in the future. Just map those things to a button. I don't have to have them physically walking around and surrounding me. You did it great in Breath of the Wild. You don't have to come up with a new way. Just do the same thing again, because they get in the way all the time.
but other than
yes, that is helpful, which is a plus from it. Like a lot of times they help me in some huge ways with beating some enemies, but they also get in the way sometimes, which I guess is just like real people. Like we're helpful, but sometimes we get in each other's way. So maybe it's a little too real. But yeah, that's my number one overall pick. Which brings us to our game of the year. And so some
You
of you,
want community game of the years or?
oh yeah, let's go for it. Sorry
All
about
right.
that.
So
Sorry,
no.
community. I about forgot about you.
So Dave has overall game of the year, Tears of the Kingdom. Jakester overall game of the year is Pikmin 4. New Dad Gaming podcast game of the year is Zelda, and I think that's it.
Nice. Nice.
Original Legend of Zelda, nice.
Yeah. I haven't heard of this
You said
game.
Tears because you said you said the other one was Tears of the Kingdom. This one you just said Zelda, so it sounds like a different Zelda game.
Tears of the Kingdom, yes. Thought it was obvious by now, Greg.
Yeah.
It's Tray Racers.
it's
it's oddball
Bayonetta
Tray
2.
Racers.
uh, so here we are at the end, and if you've been doing math in your head, you've been following along, you may have figured out our number one. But we also, what we do is I go back and assign some points, and this is basically how Hassan did it back in the early days, and we've kept the same approach, that of our Game of the Year picks, the first place picks for each of us gets 3 points. Our second place pick gets 2 points, and our third place pick gets 1 point. And so you basically want the most points is going to get first, second, and third overall. And if there's a tie, like there was this year for second place, there was a 3-way tie. Then I go back to the original lists and see how many times it shows up, that particular game in our list overall, in order to break that tie. So with that in mind, our number 3 overall game for Game of the Year, according to the NintendoFuse Podcast panel, is Xenoblade Chronicles 3 Future Redeemed. Congratulations, Xenoblade Chronicles 3. And that leaves Pikmin 4 as the number 2 overall game, because Greg and I both put it on our Nintendo list, and only Barry had Xenoblade. I had it in my honorable mentions there, Barry. It was close. And that, of course, leaves The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom as our number 1 overall pick for Game of the Year. Greg, Barry, anything else that you haven't said about this game that you'd like to say as we wrap up this section of this podcast?
No.
Not really. There's not really a ton left to say. I mean, as I was trying to say, Tears of the Kingdom is still not like the perfect Zelda game, but it's still easily Game of the Year for me because it's just such that great of a game. But yep, I mean, I understand there's criticisms and there's not really any ideal perfect game either. So it's still an incredible game and still everyone should play it.
Yeah,
absolutely. I echo that.
Yep. Well, that brings us to the end of our Games of the Year. Before we hit any of our last closing things for this episode, I just love to hear any reflections you guys have on 2023, this amazing year of gaming. Any last minute thoughts that you guys have about this year of gaming? Greg?
To be honest, this was my favorite year of the Switch. Like, it had Zelda, it had Fire Emblem, it had Mario, had Pikmin 4. This was by far my hardest Nintendo first party list to make this year because it was just way too stacked, and in my opinion, it was more stacked than 2017. So it was very phenomenal overall, and so many great games, and just to kind of it already kind of looks from what we know of 2024 that it's going to be another somewhat sleeper year, but you never really know. I mean, it could be a Switch 2, it could be new surprises that we still don't know about that are just a shadow drop away. But yeah, it was definitely a very great year overall, and just happy gaming.
Nice. Barry?
What a phenomenal year. I mean, in terms of established IP, this year gave us a new Mario, multiple, 2 if you count Mario RPG, new Zelda, new Wario, new Pikmin, new Fire Emblem, new Bayonetta, Metroid, Kirby, and that's Advanced Wars. And that's just in the Nintendo camp. You have a new Street Fighter, you have a new Mortal Kombat, a new Final Fantasy, a new Baldur's Gate, a new Diablo. You have just so many fantastic IP, even though it was crappy, a new Bomberman, Star Ocean came back, a brand new Sonic the Hedgehog. You had Dragon Quest, you had so many IP
F
just coming
Zero,
back. And what?
F-Zero with F-Zero 99.
F-Zero 99. You had so many great IPs just getting new entries in 2023 that I think it's impossible for 2024 to stack up just because of that alone. There's just so many that came out this year. But even if you look past the established IPs, the indie games this year were phenomenal. The third party games that were not from established IPs were fantastic. Not all of them, but a good chunk of them. It's just a great year. I mean, gamers everywhere should be rejoicing this year because you should have tons to play. Can't play everything. There's backlogs galore. I think we need a slow 2024 just to get through some of these great games of 2023 that not everybody has had a chance to play. Just a phenomenal, phenomenal year overall. Just enjoy gamers. We're eating good. Let's just enjoy that.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I echo with you guys as well, of course, and love that we had so many great games and so many great sequels. I mean, like you were going off that list, Barry, like you said, it's tons of great IP. I think what I would love to see in 2024 and beyond is some new stuff. But I love what they're doing with the IP that they've had. A lot of times they've been reinventing in some really cool ways and bringing back some old games, but making them look like a fresh game that came out in 2023, which is awesome to see. But I would love to see even more new ideas and new IP moving forward. I think we'll see that, especially with new consoles and stuff like that. Who knows? Are we going to get the Switch 2 or Switch Pro or whatever next year? What will that do to gaming? Or do they have a lot of games that are already in the hopper that we're going to see like really come out strong next year? Or is it going to be 2 or 3 top games and we'll see them trickle out over the following years? This is one of the first times in a long time that Nintendo might just kind of keep building on what they have already rather than coming up with something completely different for the next console. And so that could bring a completely different approach moving forward as well in terms of games. So it's been an exciting this year. I'm excited to see where it goes in the future. I think my only disappointment is that I've got a lot of games on my backlog because I just financially could not afford all these games that came out in 2023. And so maybe eventually I'll get to them, or maybe I'll just, be forced to watch other people play them on Twitch and YouTube and just enjoy it through them instead. But yeah, it's definitely been a solid year of gaming for sure. And as we look forward to our next episode, we're going to be back on January 29th. So we're going to take several weeks off for the rest of the holiday season and into the new year. On January 29th, 2024, we're going to bring back our predictions episode. So we'll look back at our 2023 predictions that we made earlier this year and see how good we did with those, or maybe how bad we did with our predictions. And we're going to make some new predictions for 2024. So that'll be fun to do. But before we wrap up this episode, we're going to take that thing that we normally do at the very beginning of our episode, and we have moved it to the very end. So quickly before we wrap up, Greg, what have you been playing recently?
Yeah, so if it wasn't pretty evident by some of the games on the list that I had on there, I had played Doodle World. It was just a game on TikTok that I had saw that we were like playing trailers for, and it just seemed like a really fun game. And I pretty much had kind of spoke very briefly of it for that as an honorable mention. So yeah, it was pretty fun from what I did play. One thing I didn't say is there is like an easy mode, like they call it a kids mode, and then essentially they pretty much turn all the enemies into the easiest enemy in the game, and then you pretty much don't have to like really dodge some of the other enemies that like you come across. So the game is only like 6 or 7 levels long, so it's not very difficult or whatever, not very long, but it still was a lot of fun to go through, and I did beat the game on the kids mode just because it was a lot easier not to be dying on some of the more difficult enemies to pass through. So I also was playing the Ira and the Crow Maiden, and like I was saying there, like I already dove the deep dive in the list and how much I enjoyed the game, so that pretty much settles it there. I did get the time in with Full Quiet, and obviously that was a not so great game of list that it made. So there's that. Then still was continuing on with Hogwarts Legacy, as I can't seem to stop playing it. It's just so much fun. And then still doing like the normal mobile side of it with like a Simpsons Tapped Out, Monopoly Go, Super Mario Run. I'm getting very close to getting all the black coins. It's just finishing up the special world there, and then I'll be full on complete there. Then I don't know if I want to do the grind to do all the toads for all the different items you can buy, but I'll have to see. And then yeah, still doing various Roblox games with my daughter. It just depends on whatever her game of the day is, or even the game of the moment, because there's so many different games on there, and she always finds new ones on there that can be fun there too. So that was pretty much all I've been playing recently.
Nice. Go in the chat real quick, and it's Jakester says been playing Pokemon Sleep, which he's been playing quite a bit. So he's been sleeping quite a bit, I guess. And then even just started. I'm not sure what that. Their Christmas even, is that a game, or am I misreading that? I'm not sure. But Pikmin Bloom's Christmas event. Oh, Christmas events for both Pokemon Sleep and Pikmin. I got it. Honkai Star Rail and finished Xenoblade Chronicles 3 Future Redeemed. Also been playing Tetris 99 and again Honkai Star Rail. Cool. Barry, how about you?
Yeah, so on the Switch, Pokemon Unite, still doing that. Pokemon Scarlet, I did the Indigo disc that came out, so I did finish the DLC, but I'm probably not going to get the full Pokedex for the first time in this, just because it uses a really stupid BP system to unlock Pokemon. You have to do these little objectives like have your Pokemon kill 10 Pokemon in auto battle and take a picture of a swimming Pokemon for like 20 BP at a time, and you need like 12,000 BP to unlock all the starters. And I'm like, is there a fast grind? Oh yeah, play with other people. I'm like, oh no, I'm probably not going to do that. Maybe when my wife gets caught up. But yeah, it's like padding. It's like, I hate when it's artificial padding. But the game itself was fun. Like the story was cute. Tetris 99 did it for the Mario Wonder theme, so I got that. Finished up Dragon Quest Monsters: The Dark Prince. Last Faith, like I talked about, played through that and had a blast. I'm like the extra bonus boss at the end, but I can't beat her. She's really tough, but I've been having fun with the game. Game we'll talk about on a game chat here coming up, a Highland Song. On the NSO app, I did boot up 1080 snowboarding. I loved that as a kid, growing up in high school. And I will say it's very hard to play with the Switch Pro controller. I'll probably have to bust out the N64 controller for that one. And then finally, Rhapsody Moral Kingdom Chronicles. Like I mentioned, I'm playing Rhapsody 2, but that game contains both 2 and 3. But I'm in 2 right now. On the MetaQuest 3, I've been playing Premium Bowling, which is a lot of fun. It's Wii bowling, but with a lot more immersion. And Epic Roller Coasters. I'm not a big roller coaster guy, but it's one of those where it's like I could do this from the comfort of my own home. And then I've been starting there's a shooter mode in that, so I was going around Santa's workshop shooting little targets while Santa drops presents on me, and VR is really weird. But I had my in-laws in town, so I was helping them play like golf and the Epic Roller Coasters, and watching like grown adults having so much fun with it. Like older generation just having fun in VR. And that to me that was the best purchase for the MetaQuest. And then PC Final Fantasy 14 still, and mobile on Mario Kart Tour.
Nice. Yeah, I've been playing Pokemon Go and Clash Royale. Have not been playing nearly as much Rocket League because I've been playing Fortnite more. And Rocket Racing is fun. It's limited, but it's also in beta right now, so it makes sense. I've been playing a lot of the Lego version, which is a ton of fun. one thing I don't like, I wish there was some way to move things. So for instance, I'm not huge fan of games that building. So like Minecraft, I would rather explore other people's stuff than build my own. But games like Animal Crossing, I love building my own little world, and I don't go all out as some people do, but I love the fact that you can, move furniture. Amazing concept. I wish you could move furniture in Lego Fortnite, but you have to destroy it and then rebuild it every time, and it's a pain in the butt. And there's some things you can't destroy. Like I can't, if I put up a lamp, I've not figured out how to destroy the lamp. I have to destroy everything around the lamp, and then the lamp goes away as well. It's weird. A refrigerator. I put the refrigerator in like slightly away from the wall, and I just wanted to push it back a little bit against the wall. Can't do that. So it's little things like that are kind of frustrating.
I would make me quit the game, to be honest. That frustration would make me quit.
Yeah. But it's fun, and it's fun to play both the casual mode, but also the mode where you have different enemies and stuff attacking you and stuff like that. So yeah, I've been really enjoying Fortnite, which is again crazy to say, but that's the games that I've been playing the most. I played a handful of other demos and stuff, trying to get ready for the game of the year, because there was several games that I unfortunately missed throughout the year, and so thankful that they'd have some demos that I didn't have to spend a ton of money on to experience a lot of these games. And a lot of them, I'm so pleased that they have like 3-hour demos, so you can get a good chunk of the game in and really have an idea of like what that experience is like, just with 3 hours of a demo that's free. So pleased with that.
Does it have carryover too?
Yeah, a lot of those games do.
Oh, even better.
Yeah. So yeah, I think like Octopath Traveler 2 has a carryover. What was the other ones?
Sea of Stars.
Sea of Stars has carryover, I'm pretty sure, and so does what's the other one? I think Star Ocean
does.
I think has carryover as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, great. Like for various reasons, but you're basically playing the beginning of the game, and you get to carry over your save data. So, but yeah, as we look forward to the next month of games, we'll be back, like I said, on January 29th. There are a ton of indie games that are coming out. I'm not gonna put them on the screen. We're not gonna go over the whole list. A ton of games, especially on December 31st. Which I thought was interesting. I don't know if those are still placeholder dates, or if there's actually going to be a ton of games dropped at the very end of the year, if they're kind of trying to classify them as a 2023 game or something.
That has to be.
They must be
placeholders. Because the 31st is a Sunday, and games come out either Tuesday or Friday, or sometimes Thursday. But no, I don't think any are ever on Sunday.
But there are a ton of games that are supposedly coming out over this next month or so, but most of them are indie games. Most of the game are games that you probably never heard of, because all the AAA games do not come out usually at this time of year. So it's usually a little bit more of a lull. So we don't feel bad taking some time off from the podcast. But of course you can hit us up on social media and on our Discord. But what are you going to be playing over the next few weeks as we enter the new year, Greg?
Definitely will be continuing on with Hogwarts Legacy, and probably trying to hit some of the other ones off the backlog. So, I mean, I don't know if I'll get into my Fire Emblem marathon that I'd like to do to get through both Three Houses and Engage, but I don't know. At least one notable game that does come out before the next podcast is that Another Code Recollection. And so I think I might actually probably be looking into that one probably right around the release time, because that had looked very interesting.
There's a demo available right now.
There is.
Yeah, because that comes out on the 19th, I guess, of January. So
that's true. I did forget about that one.
That's like at least the main highlight one that I looked through when I was scrolling through. But yeah, I did back that little Nemo game that says it's slated for the 31st, but I think it's just a simple placeholder date. I didn't see any news or updates on it that it was going to be out this year. But it'll probably be mostly a backlog type season and over the winter break, and then I don't know exactly when I'll get Super Mario RPG, but it'll probably be before New Year's, and I just hopefully will have a chance to start playing it. Depends, I guess, how fast I get through Hogwarts Legacy, really. But yeah, that's
Nice.
probably what I'll be playing over the next month or so.
Cool. Cool. Yeah, I was actually, you reminded me with that new game that I forgot how many games came out, good games came out this December. So it'd be really interesting, and if they have any lasting power for next year's Game of the Year awards, because there were some great games that came out this month as well. So Barry, what are you going to be playing over the next several weeks?
Yes. So my plan is to finish the Moral Kingdom marathon I've done. So I did Rhapsody 1. I should finish Rhapsody 2 by tomorrow. They're like 4-hour games. They're not really long. And then do Rhapsody 3. And then after that, I'm probably going to try and replay Crisis Core. I did that originally on the PSP, but I'll probably do the reunion, the remake that they did. And then Final Fantasy VII Remake finally, and then that will get it close to time for the second part of that 3-part game. Also, Another Code. So my hope is to finish that all before Another Code, so that I could do that on the 19th of January. That's the next big game I'm looking forward to that hasn't come out yet. And I guess we'll see how things go and what things change, and there's some other games that maybe we'll be like, hey, have you played this yet? No, I haven't. Oh, you really should. All right, I'll take a look at it. Or a Kickstarter game magically drops and go, oh yeah, I forgot that was 4 years ago I backed that. Yeah, I'll try that. It's happened already, so we'll see. But it'll be an interesting time. Nice. I'm welcoming the little bit of a lull, a little bit of a break to work through some backlog stuff and take it easy.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think, of course, continuing with Tears of the Kingdom, I'm so close to being done with the main game at this point, so I'll probably finish that over the next several weeks. Probably play some more Sea of Stars and maybe some more Star Ocean and Octopath Traveler 2. But yeah, most of my holiday season will be spent with party games, and so I'll probably spend a lot of time with Jackbox, which typically happens with family get-togethers, and that'd be a lot of fun. I have not played the brand new Party Pack 10 that just came out a couple months ago. So, what was you saying, Barry? You're muted.
I played a little bit of it at a Friendsgiving, and we wound up going back to Jackbox 2 and 3.
Oh, yeah, that's kind of how I felt about I think 7, 8, and 9. I've kind of been like, I'd rather go back to 3 and 4 are my favorites. There's some good stuff at 2, but 3 and 4 is where we usually end up landing when we play. But I'll probably play the newest one just to check it out. But yeah, and I think, beyond that, beyond games and stuff, I just started finally reading. I'm reading The Hobbit for the very first time, so excited about that. I'll probably make my way through most of it, if not all of it, before the next podcast. So that's exciting. Anything non-gaming related going on in your guys' world over the next several weeks, Greg?
We can go see Cirque Soleil at one of the theaters in downtown Chicago, so that should be a good time seeing some nice little performance there. Other than that, it'll probably just be some nice quality time with family, and my daughter will be on winter break, so I'll have her the week of Christmas all the way up through New Year's Eve, so it should be a lot of fun and lots of gaming time with her as I took off a few days just to have the rest of the year off. So starting Friday, I will be done with work for the rest of the year, and it'll be nice to be able to catch up on some games and get everything all set up for the holiday season and everything too. So
cool.
That's just about it.
Cool. Barry, how about you? What's going on in your world?
Yeah, I'm just looking forward to Christmas. Normally Christmas isn't a big thing for us because we get ourselves, a joint present, whether it be the TV one year or the puppies last year. This year we did the MetaQuest 3. So it's stuff we've already have, but because it's our son's first Christmas, so it's like, oh, that's cool. We took him to see Santa last week when his grandparents were in town, and and we already did like a Christmas with them, so he got a lot of little gifts and just so many stupid little gifts I've seen, like little toys, like nothing, but like to see him smile at like this dancing dinosaur, like just the laughter and the smile. I'm like, this is the stupidest thing in the world, but I love it. It's my favorite thing now because it makes my son laugh. Like it's so interesting how perspective changes completely. But looking forward to getting him stuff. Of course, he's too young. He's going to be 6 months on Christmas exactly. So he's still very young in terms of understanding and getting things and playing with things. But he's starting to pick up things more. He's starting to talk more, and babble and it's just great watching him develop and grow and it's just that it's spending time with him and spending time with family and in terms of non-gaming related, spending time with the pups. And praying for no snow so I don't have to shovel, or I'll be seeing the chiropractor myself. But no, it's a good time. It's a good time. He had his first Hanukkah. Now he's going to get his first Christmas, and it's memories. These are things you only have one first, so it's really cool.
Yeah. It's got to be so exciting to have a little one around the first Christmas.
Oh, it changes everything.
Yeah.
Sure does.
It's like little things. It's like, oh yeah, I have like the little play school game controller and the little Game Boy and stuff. I bought those when he was still in the womb, like ready to go for his first Christmas. So I'm, it's here, play with these, So soon he'll be watching Daddy play while playing with his little play school game controller and stuff.
That's
fun. For my nephew, I got him like a little gamer chair thing that like it's for like kids that are like only like 1 to like 2 years old. They obviously can sit up or whatever, but there's all sorts of little buttons and even like a phony little headset they could put on to like hear like the sound.
Awesome.
It's really cool. It's like this like Fisher Price like gamer chair. I think he's gonna have so much fun with it. I'm so excited to see him open it.
That's awesome. That's so cool. Oh man, it's gonna be a good holiday season for sure. Jakester says in the chat he's gonna be playing Pokemon Sleep, Pikmin, Star Rail, and hoping for Pikmin 4, Mario RPG, Zelda for Christmas, and I've been hopefully playing those throughout January. I'll also hoping to see Aquaman before the end of the year. I'm excited for more Marvel. What If is coming out soon, and then Echo's coming out in January. It's going to be a pretty exciting time, even if we don't have brand new games.
Got fired because of the guilty verdict.
Yep.
So who knows what's happening with Avengers 5?
Wait, is that official now?
Yeah, he got his guilty verdict today. And apparently Marvel fired him like hours afterwards. Like they were ready to go just in case.
You know what? I'm ready to move on beyond Kang anyway. I wasn't a big fan. I've never been a big fan of Kang. And so when they announced him as the big bad, I was like, ugh, can we just let's go get Doctor Doom and do that story instead, or Galactus or some big thing. Like I don't like Kang. I
hope they recast him and at least give him a closure, because they set him up to have to have closure.
Sure. Yeah. If they do anything that they should just like forget happened, it's Secret Wars. Just forget it all happened. But which I'd be okay with. Yeah, it's gonna be really an exciting time, catching up on some games, getting some new content from Marvel and DC and all this fun stuff. Greg, you saw Wonka?
Yeah, I just saw that over this last weekend. My daughter had said she really wanted to see it, and I was like, all right, that sounds like an easy win right there. So like we went and saw it, and it was very, very cool the way they worked in like his backstory and everything on how he created the factory. And I don't know, definitely very musically based. There's lots of like parts where they just break into song, and there's obviously nothing wrong with that. It's still really cool, and lots of great songs that they did there too. So they even have like a throwback to that Oompa Loompa song, but just different lyrics. So definitely would recommend it for anyone that really likes Charlie and the Chocolate Factory.
Cool. Yeah, it's probably on my list at some point. I'll definitely watch it for sure. But man, it's been great to, as always, talk games with you all. Of course, Greg and Barry, but everybody that's joined us in the live chat. We hope to see you in the live chat when we could join back on January 29th, 2024. like I said, we'll be back with our predictions episode and cover any other news that might have come out between now and then as well. Of course, telling you what we have been playing and what we're looking forward to over the couple weeks after that as well. But brings us to the end of episode 283, the end of episode of the year for episodes in 2023. And yeah, thanks for being here with us for another year. And happy holidays and happy gaming.
Have a good one.
Happy gaming. Happy New Year.